Listen to my story.
It all begins here.
No, this is a one-time gig.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Super Frank, a Super Frank podcast. I am your host, Super Sanctus. Here with me,
Frankie.
All right, awesome. So today we have an awesome episode for you. We were super excited to talk about it. But first, we're going to give you a little background on why we got to this, how we got to this episode. We had debated on what we wanted to do, another list of something along the lines of that. But in the meantime of recording the last one and coming out, Final Fantasy 16 came out.
Yep.
And we both have been nonstop playing this, absolutely loving it, can't stop talking about it every time we're together, and decided, you know what, let's just talk about 16 again.
We're like, we're going to have to do another episode about 16 for sure.
Then it was, okay, there's too much in Final Fantasy 16 we want to talk about to just do an episode or even two episodes. So we decided we are going to do kind of a quick walkthrough-ish, and we're going to do a multi-part series of Final Fantasy 16, and we're going to kind of go through, mostly focused on story, I believe, but we might always get sidetracked on some of the other things that are with it, and kind of ranking it as we go, I think.
Some little comparison to other titles, other Final Fantasies, and a whole bunch of stuff. The battle system, everything, and just overall our take on it so far.
As we're going along. So, that being said, if you haven't played 16 yet, and you don't want any spoilers, spoiler alert on this video, we are going through the story.
Spoilers going forward.
We're going to go through complete, and we're going to talk about every little thing. So, if you haven't played yet, pause the video, go buy it, go play it, and come back to watch this video after you get a certain distance into the game. But so, that being said, let's dive right into it because there's a lot we got to get through. So, right when you start playing, you get into this scene showing the sky, I believe, going down, and you hear...
It was this light which finally led our forebears out of the darkness. Yet, what they saw in the light gave rise to temptation. Temptation that ever lures us back into the crystal shadow. And thus did our journey begin.
Then all of a sudden it just jumps right into the middle of this fight with Ifrit and Phoenix.
It was very quick. I had the controller set down. I was like, I'm ready for a long beginning scene. And I was like, oh man, I have to do something.
Yeah. And it goes right into, I called it a cinematic interactive battle. Because right away you see them going after, and then all of a sudden it's like a menu pops up and it goes, press triangle to use a fireball and R1 to dodge, and then you're just like falling through this giant tunnel as Ifrit is jumping at you, and you're as Phoenix just shooting fireballs at him, and you're like, what is happening right now? But this is so awesome.
Blown away by like the graphics and just like the scene already, and then you're like, oh wait, but I have to do something, and what is going on?
It's so seamless between a cinematic
cutscene,
cutscene, what have you. It just goes right in between battle and stuff because everything is rendered on the spot, from what I remember them saying, and it makes sense because it's like,
now I understand what that means.
The graphics, the normal graphics of what you see, everything is just how the scenes are, but they are so good that like it doesn't matter that you quote unquote like the typical Final Fantasy having the amazing pre-rendered movie cutscenes. Like, no, the graphics just finally are that good that it's no difference. Like, they won't get any better. you know?
It's
so
quickly realize how seamless it goes from cutscene to battle. And I don't think I mean, if you're a Final Fantasy fan at all, it's Ifrit. But
it does say Phoenix at the top, but does it say?
I don't even know. I think it just says it might say Fire Icon But if you haven't played any other Final Fantasies, and 16 is your first one, Ifrit is just a fire beast, fire monster, right?
Yeah,
and
that's a good point. Yeah,
if you don't know what a phoenix is, firebird, but you probably know what phoenix is from something else.
Yeah.
And it feels very, like right away you have this scene of them going at it, very cool, and then they're just like falling, and it was just immediately I couldn't help but think of like Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
The
totally...
Gandalf fighting the ball rock or whatever.
Yeah. Fly, you fool.
Yeah. So it's just very epic right off of the bat. You're just like, all right.
And then it jumps into a scene and it like zooms way in or like zooms out, and it's from. Then you see this is the main character now. Zooming out from his eye. It's a really cool shot, and then you see that he's at a campfire, and a bunch of other guys are there, and then they start talking about how their target is the dominant Shiva. And they're there to kill the dominant of Shiva. And so if you've watched our previous video, we explained a lot of these background things of what this story talks about. So if you haven't and you're confused on that, pause this, go back, watch the last one. We explain background on all of this, so it makes a little bit more sense.
A little bit easier idea of some.
The other thing is
things going
that's awesome with this game is at any point you can pause it and you can hit the... what is that? The touchpad button?
Yeah. Yep. Touchpad, yeah.
You can hit that. It brings up a lore menu. And that will give you little explanations on anything that's going on in the scene. So I believe at that point you could like bring that up and it would explain like what a dominant is already.
I don't think it tells you right away. It tells you very quickly.
Yeah.
But you can even, I think,
the scene you might not know, but I think it tells you... Because I think after that, basically they say that and they're like, get up and let's go, and then you get control of Clive, and it does this small tutorial of, here's how to walk, and then here's you run, and you slowly are going through this little mountainous area.
Yeah.
Not much to say, but I think that's right around when they say then the lore, so...
Yeah, exactly. I think that's when they kind of also say that, so you can also get an idea. It's an amazing feature. And I've been really seeing online, everybody's basically praising it, and it's just like, this needs to basically just be a staple everywhere.
Yeah.
Because it's like, so it's just enough information that it gives you a better idea, and it's not too much where you're like, I don't feel, it's like, I don't feel like reading all of this. It literally gives you basically like who you are, where you are.
Yeah, who's in the scene.
Yeah, who's like in the scene, where you are. And then kind of like, so like, let's say for an example, you'll be like, you're in this area and then this is their army. And, kind of who you're going against.
Which,
almost.
That is what we go right into. Then you see...
oh, yeah.
Oh, I wanted to make a point of this, though. So the music when you get Clive, this awesome music starts playing. And I don't know why, I can't help but just feel... sounds like Dark Knight Rises when Batman finally meets up with Bane and it has the like epic music kicking in, and I was like, that's what it sounds like. So immediately you're just like, we're in the middle of this war going on. I believe actually in the middle of that is when you see this scene. No, you walk forward and you see it, and then you see these two armies going clash.
Yeah, you go forward a little bit.
And that's when it's because when you run a bit and then you get to see this massive battle going on with these two armies. So again, we don't really have context,
not too much,
and it kind of just jumps you right in to like you're supposed to know all these places, so it is kind of confusing if you didn't do any sort of back research on it. But that's where that active time lore comes in and explains things so very simple. Because I believe at that point you can hit that and it'll already explain that it's the Imperial Sambric army, I believe, is fighting... Or no, it's the Dalmekians.
Yes,
it's the Dalmecs are fighting the Iron Blood, which we'll learn more and more as we go along. Yeah. So right now, that's just all you remember. Dalmec and remember Iron Blood. They're two different factions, if you will.
Yeah.
Two different houses.
Nations. Yeah. Houses like Game of Thrones.
If Game of Thrones from there, which is very, very much to the feel in this story. You're going to get the idea.
You're going to pick up on that pretty quickly. Get that kind of vibe. Yeah. And also like with Game of Thrones, where I feel like it's very the same thing. There's a lot of people, a lot of places, a lot of names getting thrown around quickly. You get the vibe real quick that you're just like, oh, okay, I'm going to pick that up as I go along. Yeah. And then again, that active like lore system really helps that.
Yes, that's so good.
Yeah, you're still trying to figure out what was going on in that opening like battle.
Yeah.
And you're trying to figure out who you are. And now all of a sudden you see just another scene of two armies, and immediately you're just seeing some blood and some death, and it's like,
gruesome. People like stabbed right, like I think an axe. You see somebody get hit right in the head with an axe, and just blood's everywhere, and you're like, whoa, this is.
And again, the graphics are just so good
for Final Fantasy.
You start to forget. Yeah. You forget that you're playing a game and you're not just watching a show.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, whoa! Like when these people are getting an axe to the head, you're like, ah.
So then, right after that, then it jumps and it jumps to another scene, and we're in a room with a bunch of councilmen. You can assume they're sitting around a table and they're talking, and they're saying, one of the guys is saying, "You said that you would come and protect us when we need you, and you refuse that now." They do explain in there, I don't know exact words they say, I forget, but they basically saying that they're talking to the king of Waloed, another country or nation, and saying, he's refusing to help the Namekians now when they're asking for his help.
Mm-hmm.
Then you meet another lady is there smoking.
Sitting
there on a table smoking a long pipe or something.
Smoking,
and she says some sassy things going on about how they don't need her or something along those lines. I
thought you were tough, basically. Right?
Yeah, like you don't need us, right? You have your own dominant. Why don't you just send him to the field? Which then enter Hugo Kupka, who they say basically immediately.
And again, if you haven't watched our previous episode, already introduced to a couple of characters.
Yes.
That, so if you have watched it, you might recognize. Again,
3 of them right off the bat. Right in this scene, 3 of them that we talked about in the last episode. Here we are. So, they did tell us beforehand who they are, and you would know a little bit of their background if you watched that one or read anything. But so far in the story, you don't really have much.
Yes,
Other than you see this guy, Kupka, just then steps forward, and he has the cockiest attitude.
Yeah.
And basically just says,
"This game is over.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm going to enter the battlefield and we're going to destroy them."
He's just got this, swagger, and he just,
Again, smoking.
Yeah, again, smoking a cigar. Big
blows
guy.
the smoke right in their face.
That's right. Yeah, just sits this guy down and is, kind of just talking crap, and is like, I'm going in now.
Yeah.
I'll settle this.
He is a big, bald guy. Almost like if anyone knows from wrestling, Batista or
yeah, right.
Oh, what's his name in Guardians of the Galaxy? Drax.
Yeah.
So it's like Drax. This guy is big. He's
add a foot or two.
Yeah,
right?
might even be taller.
Yes,
he's
tall, big guy,
7 foot buff like that, type thing. So then he just walks out.
Yep.
If you want to take this is the funny part.
Yeah. So then
our first funny line.
Immediately, then we see. I don't even know if you know they're her name yet, but
I don't think they said it yet, but we know.
Chases after, kind of walks out of the room after him, and you're kind of expecting them maybe to butt heads because
they were
she
opposite
was
sides
just
of the table.
Yes, yeah,
right? Different factions. So
then immediately just calls him,
"You cock."
Just goes, "You cock." And I'm sure you had the same reaction too, of literally just kind of spitting out your water. Right?
I was like, "What?"
My immediate thought was, I think that has to be the first person in Final Fantasy to be called a cock.
I'm pretty positive about that.
So you quickly catch on
the stats team on it, but I'm pretty positive.
Yeah. Quick fact check there, but you quickly catch on to the dialogue now is mature too.
Yes.
And then what proceeds is them
I
don't know exactly. Embracing each other?
Yeah, she comes on the stairs and kind of hops up onto him, and he grabs her, and they do a little spin, and then she wraps her legs around him, and he pushes her up against the wall and starts kissing her neck, and is like, to the point where my wife is in the other room when I'm replaying this for the podcast and refresh my brain. She's like, "What in the hell are you watching?" And I was like, "You want to see?"
You definitely turn the volume down because you're like, "Whoa!"
I was like, "I don't know When are we gonna see?
Are we gonna get into one of these scenes already?
M rating right off the bat.
Yeah,
they're like, we're gonna slam it down your throat about. Oh, that's
pretty
weird.
Yeah.
M rating down your throat right off the bat.
Yeah.
But so far, it's fantastic. Basically saying we get the feel now that these two have some sort of secret romance going on.
Yes. Right. Totally.
And she says, be careful out there in the battlefield. And he goes, "Why?" He says a line.
Does the lion take care when he chases the hare? Or do you think me one of the latter?
Super cocky.
Super
just
cocky.
like, I'm going to go into
like,
this war.
boy.
I'm going to destroy everything.
Yeah. And you're like, oh.
I'll be back. And then I need a warm body to come back to.
How did you put it? You're basically
say?
like, hey, I'm going to go kill all these people. You be like waiting for me when I come back, in my bed.
Yeah,
right?
Like, wait. Yeah, I need you in my bed waiting when I come back.
And I'm just going to go kill all these people. And you're like, oh.
I was like, damn.
Okay.
Okay. And she was like, all right. So.
Quick note. Okay. You're a little confused on who the main character is because he's getting called Wyvern.
Oh, yeah.
But
that's right.
Like
they keep yelling at him. They say, "Wyvern, move your ass."
The menu basically says like you have control of Clive. And again, if you've watched a previous episode, any trailers, you know who Clive is.
Yeah, you don't even know.
So also you're getting called Wyvern, and it's funny because with the way they talk, it sounds like Wyvern. So I was like, wait, which is it? And it is Wyvern.
Yeah.
So they're calling you Wyvern. They're calling Clive Wyvern as you're going through. So you're kind of like, huh?
Yeah. That gets explained a little bit later.
Yep.
But so, then you get control of Clive, but then it also jumps into another scene, awesome scene, of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it just jumps right now into now Kupka is in the battlefield and he is Titan.
You walk forward a little bit, and again, it immediately goes from gameplay into a cutscene.
Yeah.
Flawlessly, and all of a sudden, Titan.
Yeah. You realize appears. That where you are as the main character is just in the mountain range off to the side of this massive battle that's going on. That Titan now just joined up in, but somebody else enters.
Yes.
We see who we are looking to kill. Shiva pops up. And her typical awesome cinematic entrance, the like mists and ice forming into a big ice thing, and then shatters it and throws like a cloak off to the side as it shatters.
Yeah,
typical.
Feels very
opening of
Shiva. Yeah.
Yeah. So already it's like, bam, we've seen such 4 staple summons.
Yeah.
Of Final Fantasy.
Already
immediately like,
feels Final Fantasy with the summons. Yeah. Even if you take it on this whole the war and everything.
It's like.
Very good. And Titan is like scary looking.
He's
like
massive,
ginormous. Like they do such a great job of the scale. Like you get to feel
like how
giant he is.
Pinky
you get to
toe
feel
is bigger than any one person.
Yeah,
like, he is
fingernail.
He is literally a mountain.
Yeah,
like huge. And then his jaw, he's got like a double jaw outside of his other jaw, so it like almost looks like skeletal.
Yes, skeletal and just
man.
I think we mentioned it in our last video, and I know a lot of people I think have mentioned it online. A little bit of like Attack on Titan vibes.
Yes.
I haven't watched that anime, but
he's like the colossal Titan.
Even I can like see that he
He's probably even
bigger.
A
Titan. Titan is a Titan. Yeah. Like who would have thought?
So then Shiva's flying around and they're fighting. And it's an awesome scene, and then it jumps right back into Clive. And the guys are yelling at him, saying, "Wyvern, move your ass," type thing. We gotta go. And you start running, and now you're running through. And as you're running through this little narrow place, it just starts getting like blown up next to you, and like things are falling around you.
Earth is just falling around you. Ice is just popping up and almost killing you. And what I just loved immediately is if you stop and just like look around with the camera, you see Shiva and Titan going at it in the back. So you're like, this is literally a cutscene, but I'm like
I'm on the side of the cutscene that we were just watching.
Yeah,
like, now I'm controlling him. Like, what's going on? It's so good.
You haven't even done a battle yet, and I guess you technically have with like the Phoenix, but
you haven't
really done a regular battle yet, and you're just it's been so enjoyable though already. So you're like, oh my gosh,
it really only probably it felt like I was watching for like 15 minutes. I think it's only like 5 or something.
Right.
Like we've been talking about it for a while, but it's not a lot, but it's a lot of information right off the bat.
Yeah.
So you do a little bit running around and all that stuff's falling, and then you start sliding down the side of this thing and you see a giant boulder, and then you hear Clive and a boulder crushes him.
Yeah.
Crushes the other guy he was with.
See it too.
Blown, and just all you see is just blood underneath him. And then Clive like dodges out of the way of one and then kind of like hits his head. And then one of the other guys shows up and is like, "Oh, you're not dying on me today." And then you kind of see it's like Clive passing out.
Yes.
Then, boom, we are jumped back, and it tells you, though...
It does tell you.
13 years earlier, it shows in the bottom there. And now you're playing as young Clive. And you go right into...
They do call him Clive, so now you kind of understand... Okay, it tells you this is 13 years earlier, so you're assuming who I was playing as is the same person. Mm-hmm. And they're calling him Clive, so you're like, okay, I think it is Clive. Yeah. And that's who I was.
Yeah. And he's definitely younger, and he had longer, kind of curlier hair, dark. Now he's got, like, kind of shaved basically on the sides, a little, like, swooshy, look
also,
over.
what I didn't pick up on, I don't think, like, before playing the game, was, so in the beginning, he has this mark.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
And
he's got a tattoo on his face.
Yes, they kind of mention it, he kind of touches it, and then now we go back and he doesn't have it.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of noticed that.
That's a subtle thing. Yeah, and you're like, okay. They throw like water on him and he wakes up and they're like, "Clive, get up," or whatever. And then you're prompted, do you want to go through the battle system tutorial?
Battle tutorial, yeah.
Yeah. So you're facing, his name is Lord Commander. What was his name?
Murdoch.
Murdoch, right.
Rodney?
I think something along those lines. Lord Commander.
Yep.
And he's basically training you. As like your tutorial training.
Yeah. Sparring.
Teaches you the basic combat,
yep.
which is a lot of fun. I know we were talking the last one, we were kind of worried about it. Right off the bat, it's a lot of fun. Basically, You've got your physical attack combo, and then your triangle, which is your square. Your triangle then is you can shoot magic.
It was very interesting. You didn't have any MP, so you can basically just keep blasting away.
Yeah. So... there's that. Then you can jump. You have a circle ability, which we'll learn gets
very fun,
completely different. But at the beginning now, all it is just dashes. You like almost teleport right up to the person.
Yeah.
From a certain distance away, and then you can immediately go into your combos. It's great. Titans fighting in the background.
Yeah. Shiva, yeah.
I don't know if I picked up.
So the battle's nothing like too crazy, but just enough to keep you kind of going, and then it shows you like how you do an ability. So you have this sweet like uppercut.
Yeah, I love it.
And you kind of notice then it's like a phoenix wings. You're kind of, and they even mention it like you have the power of the phoenix.
That's right. They do say it in the tutorial.
They do say it, yeah. And then so that's where you get that ability. So now you have getting a little bit more information that. Okay, he has the power of the Phoenix. Mm-hmm. And it shows in battle. Like, that's how he is able to shoot magic. That's how he does his ability.
Yeah.
So then after the tutorial, right? Mm-hmm. Or I think even during, you see Joshua and Jill.
Yeah, I think during the tutorial, you hear Joshua's the one yelling at him. And if you have the subtitles on, you'll see that it says Joshua. So we see who... 2 new characters are, Joshua and Joe, which, again, if you watched the previous one, you'll know who they are. Mm-hmm. At this point, you don't really know, but you can kind of gather they're either friends or something of Clive's.
Yeah, very close.
But anyway, so you do the tutorial, then you have to straight up fight the Lord Commander.
Yeah.
You beat him, and he's like, "Oh, wow, you finally beat me, good job, that was great." And then as you're walking off, Clive kind of stumbles down a little bit to a knee, and Joshua comes up and says, "I'll heal you. Don't worry, I'll heal you." And he does a little healing. Clive says, "Don't worry about it. I'm fine." And then Joshua
save
kind
your
of
strength, right?
Yeah, save your strength. And Joshua kind of like coughs a little bit, and it seems like you realize very quickly he is the dominant of Phoenix. Mm-hmm. Pretty sure they say it right off the bat then. And says, "Save your strength." And by using his Phoenix powers, it puts a damper on his body.
Yes, yeah.
Which
it seems like Clive kind of has that too, because he kind of like came down to one knee.
Yeah, so they basically say
Joshua kind of has it too after he kind of heals him.
They do say then that Clive is the shield of Rosaria, which I think it's the first time we hear is Rosaria.
Yeah, and you do
another place.
Yeah, you do learn what the first shield actually is. Again, I'm not 100% sure if the active lore system like tells you there, but again, you kind of learn that what that is.
They basically say that's why he has the power of the Phoenix, was because he was chosen as the shield of...
Chosen to protect the dominant.
Yes. Which is a little odd, though, because I don't think we've met anybody else that has that ability with any other country.
Correct. And
so, like, they act like that's just normal?
Yeah. So we'll see going forward if somebody else has that.
Yeah, but so basically he doesn't have complete control of Phoenix.
Yeah.
But he has
some of the power.
He can tap into some of the power. Joshua has more control, apparently. Enter Annabella.
Because I believe they either... Annabella shows up, or like right after that, they're like, oh, the king is back. So you kind of...
Annabella shows up first.
Sure. Okay, right.
So, which is Clive and Joshua's mother, they basically say.
Basically the queen, they put it...
Oh, that's how they say. The queen's here, and then they say...
But as they put it, it's the Duchy and Duchess of Rosaria.
Mm-hmm.
King and queen.
Yeah.
So queen shows up.
Immediately, though, I put in parentheses in this, bitch, because you
get that vibe immediately.
And comes up, and I don't know why she talks, but she's talking with her hands like that. It's weird. But she says, Joshua, I told you to stay inside. You know, you're sick. You're not well. You need to be inside. And he's like, I wanted to watch Clive fight. And
just stares at Clive.
Yeah.
And I don't think she says a word to him, right?
Yeah, she immediately very cold to Clive, and clearly favorites Joshua.
Get that immediately.
And then you even hear behind you two soldiers as she walks away
with Joshua, ignores Clive, basically.
Then you hear the two soldiers in the back, and they're like, I can't believe that you treat your own son like that.
Yeah.
Like...
And then they kind of say, they have a line of, it's not his fault he wasn't like... Or like, it's not his fault, not everybody can be like the Phoenix.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, not everybody gets chosen as the Phoenix.
So you kind of get this dynamic...
Yeah, I think they basically say it at this point, or in the active lore, but usually the firstborn son of the kingdom would be chosen as the dominant of an icon. And it was passed over by Clive onto Joshua.
Yes.
Who was Joshua was actually the second born, who was then the power. So we find that out in so many words. It's basically what they say at this point.
So then they walk away because the king comes back now.
Yes, now this is So enter King Elwyn.
Yeah,
so he comes in, but then we also get to see Baby Torgal.
Oh, that's right.
Baby Torgal, Jill's holding Baby Torgal.
Yeah,
is what happens. So you see him. Or he comes hopping in.
He comes running in, and then she kind of holds him.
Yeah. So. Then he shows up, everybody does the typical when a king shows up thing, and then Clive kind of bows, and then Elwyn walks up to Clive, tells him to stand, and he whispers in his ear, and I jokingly put, winter is coming.
Yeah.
It was like, it's literally Ned Stark and Jon Snow.
Yeah.
You get that dynamic immediately. Yeah. Is what I think of.
Yeah, so then already a couple comparisons, like you said, the Ned Stark to Jon Snow, you immediately get the vibe of...
against...
Jon Snow. Just kind of hated.
Joshua's Bran. It seems like the mother clearly was worried about the younger one.
Definitely.
Really cold against Jon. So it's very similar dynamic.
Then, so then King is basically like, come talk to me, right? Because winter is coming. War is coming. Yeah. And then they, you start to hear basically about the blight.
Yes.
Which, again, that's like the winter.
Which is all, but that's all they say about it.
Yeah.
Blight is kind of coming, and that's one of the things.
Start talking about northern territories.
Yeah.
And then you're like,
this is
there's
like straight up.
Like a wolf from the northern territories.
Yeah.
This guy totally feels like Jon Snow. So you're getting a little bit of Game of Thrones vibes and like nods, but still maintaining a Final Fantasy vibe because I think shortly soon they start talking about mother crystals.
Yeah, a little. Oh yeah, no, they bring it
So
up. You're right.
So after the king kind of tells Clive, war is coming, you kind of have, you get to control Clive now, right? And you get to explore a little bit of Rosalith and can go walk around with like Jill and baby Torgal, and eventually once you go to talk with the king again, that's where you get a little bit more information.
There's one little scene that I wanted to bring up before.
Yeah.
So as you're going towards the king, he says, "Meet me in my chambers," and as you go to find him, you come across what we find out is a bearer. So it's like a person carrying stuff, and he bumps into Clive and jumps and falls or drops the stuff. And then he has another person who starts yelling at him, scolding him, and is like, "I told you you're such an idiot in front of the prince, and quit being so stupid." And I told him, and Clive's like, "No, it's fine." And he goes, "No, his kind, like, I told him his kind is not okay, basically."
Yep,
like along those
don't
lines.
talk to you.
You learn that they're called bearers.
And they are basically...
And if you do that after the Time Lore explains it, otherwise I'll explain a little bit later, you learn that there are people who can use magic in this world when they're born with it, and they are shunned and hated and used as slaves and treated like shit. Like, they basically say they're not people.
Yeah.
And you see this later on and go on, but this scene basically gives you a very good feeling of that right off.
Of this
and notably, that guy has a mark, which looks very similar to the older Clive on his face.
So now you start to wonder a little bit of like,
you're like, wait,
what's the deal with that? Yeah.
Thing? So then you go into then you do a little walking around. Then you go and talk with your dad.
So kind of nice. You got a little taste of battle already, and then you get a little bit of exploration.
And you figure out how you find items and stuff.
Talk to people, a couple of things.
Blue little shiny orbs that are around, and there's also treasure chests. So and you can talk to people. As you pass them, they'll talk and say things, or some of them you can actually interact with and have more conversations.
Yeah.
Your typical now. That's pretty much every game. So then you go in and you talk with your father.
Well, I think right outside, I think you run into Joshua.
Yeah, and you have a little conversation with Joshua.
Again, I don't think anything too crazy. I did want to make one note. I think one line of dialogue, because we played the demo. The demo came out a week before, and you could play first little bit. Now it's still here. And when it came out, I restarted, didn't continue from where the demo left off. And I want to say one line of dialogue that was maybe a little different was if you run past Annabella, she kind of says, she's like talking to her servants. So it basically says something along the lines of taking care of Joshua. In the actual game, not the demo, her comment, it's like a lot more severe. She's basically like, you risk your life. His life is more important than your life. Like, you sacrifice your life.
I just bolted past her this last time.
Very minor, but that was just like a little thing. Yeah, that I thought was like maybe
you get more of the she's a bitch feel.
Very, very true. And I think that was all I noticed. That was like any different from the demo to.
I'll say I didn't notice anything, but again,
the game there.
The second time through here for this, I'm just like speed running through it. Basically.
Right. But yes, so then now you go into the throne room and talk to Clive's father, Elwyn, and he basically explains there's something called the Blight. There's the Northern Territories getting just wrecked by them, and it's causing all these refugees to come south to them, basically, and he doesn't know what to do, and I think they have basically come to the conclusion that they have to go to war with like the neighboring nation. Yeah,
the other nation then is also trying to. I think he does say the Iron Blood at this point, or the neighboring nations.
Yeah, so then you're like, oh, that
saying
was
that they're
one
coming
of those...
for them. Like, there is going to be war because people are like, we're losing lands up north to this Blight, and people are going to start fighting over our lands. They're going to want our spot.
So we kind of have to. We have to prepare. And he kind of explains. Also, so you might recognize the Iron Blood. You're like, oh, that was one of those people that were fighting earlier. And again, now you know it's 13 years earlier, so you're like, okay.
Yeah, I can see where it was leading up to. Maybe this is the beginnings of what was leading up to what we saw earlier.
Yes. So I think he does explain basically how they are trying to defend against the Blight and the other going to war with the other nation, they need the protection of the Mother Crystal. And again, the opening line of the very first lines like of the game, kind of talking about the land is blessed by like Mother Crystal. So now we actually get to see, there's land that's the Blight or whatever. There's something.
Yeah, the Mother Crystal helps against the Blight or something. And it's a very coveted land. So,
but the Ironblood have control of it, and you are going to go to war with them basically to try to get it back, to have the blessing to help your people, Rosaria, help that kingdom out. It's like, okay, you kind of have an idea.
Yeah,
you're like, all right. There's a shape of a story now kind of forming.
Yeah, may not gather all of that totally because there's so many of these terms at this beginning. Like, we're like an hour in. There's so many of these terms, so you might kind of go over your head, but we replayed the beginning like 4 times already. So.
I played the demo for that entire week straight.
I played the beginning, I think this is my 3rd time through it, because I tried to really replay before it came out, and then I didn't quite get all the way through the demo, but basically this whole part I played like 3 times already, so... It's awesome. So then, though, he basically explains there's a
that's right,
tradition.
Yes.
Then that they want that the
before going to war.
Yeah, the dominant goes to the Phoenix Gate in praise to the Phoenix for strength. So he's going to take Joshua and he's going to go there. Clive wants to go with, but he says no. I want to test you as your first mission as the Shield of Rosaria.
Yes.
You're going to go, and I've heard that there are some monsters coming down from the Northern Territories. You're going to go to this place, Stillwind?
Stillwind, yeah, sounds right.
You're going to go to Stillwind and investigate.
Take them out.
Yeah. Rumors of goblins. Which was great, because that's old school Final Fantasy.
The first
boss, first enemies you fight in the first 4 games, probably. I don't know.
Right? Yeah, it's definitely a first enemy staple.
NES, SNES games, it's all like goblins immediately. So he's basically saying, go fight these goblins. Go to your room. You have a scene with Clive and Jill start talking. They have a conversation. Basically, Jill is a little worried about him. He's like, don't worry about me. I got my first mission. I'll meet up with him later. Everything's going to be fine. I'm fine.
Yeah.
But she said, just in case, I'm going to pray to Metia. I think that's how she said it. Which then it shows the sky, and you see the moon with a little red dot next to it.
Little red star kind of.
And
brighter than anything else, but still a lot smaller.
Yeah. Looks like a star compared to the moon, but yeah. Then she basically just says that's like a tradition. It's like wishing on a falling star. She's like prays to that. Like that's a small tradition.
I was almost thinking there's a lot of saints and patrons, hey, you pray to Saint so-and-so for, journey.
Yeah.
Something like that. You're like, okay.
Sense, yeah. So I was
get a little bit of...
I'm going to take note of that, because that seems important, that there's some little tiny... Like that seems like an odd... Like they emphasized it, so I was
again, if you know that Final Fantasy 16's head, producer and everything is Yoshi P, who was made 14... He, you might pick up on a little bit of a nod of a little red thing in the sky if you have played 14.
I don't think I got that far yet, but I do know.
No, in the very beginning, Realm Reborn, the Dalamud falls down, the second moon. It's the very beginning. So you see something red in the sky.
I totally forgot about that.
You're like, if you've played 14, you're probably like, I'm going to keep an eye on that.
Yeah. Also a nod. In 4. You have a very similar scene, and it's Cecil and Rosa talking, I guess, and they look up at the sky or something like that. And you see, again, it's a similar moon with another, small star next to it. And if you know the story of 4...
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, all right, there's got to be some importance to this Metia. Pay attention to it. Don't forget about it, basically. It was what I've kept it in the back of my mind. We'll get back to that way later, I think.
You also, though, kind of get a little dynamic of Jill and Clive's relationship. And also now at this point, again, we're going to keep bringing up that active lore system. You get a little bit more information. Basically explains she's like a little sister, an adoptive little sister.
Yes. And I think Annabella does say something along the lines of, we've taken you in this how you treat Joshua by letting him out.
Yeah.
Like, we've taken you in, and this is how you're going to treat him.
Yeah.
She meant something quick like that, and you're like, huh? Oh. But yeah, the actor Tom Lawler explains.
So she's basically like a little sister.
She's actually, if you read the lore, you learn that she's kind of like Theon.
The Game of Thrones.
She's very much like Theon. She was taken when there was the Northern Territories were trying to, or no, she's from the Iron Blood. I think
it does say Northern Territories.
She was the Northern Territories.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a similar. She was like taken adoptive afterwards for them to not attack again. Like,
correct.
To remind them, don't do that.
Yeah. So you get their little dynamic. You almost feel like Jill's maybe a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
And because you have this
Clive
moment,
is the clueless boy who doesn't
a little bit
really,
older,
don't pick up on those
she's kind of praying for him, and you see like a little tear, and then Clive is kind of like gonna reach out. And then, like, doesn't.
He does a little, like,
and you're
reach
like,
it back, and then it's like, maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah. So you get a little bit of their dynamic, and I think after that scene is basically, you heading out in the next, going to hunt some goblins, and you're going to then meet up with them at Phoenix Gate.
Yeah, you see your father, and he's like, all right, meet you at Phoenix Gate, head over there. I brought in 2 guys, and you meet Tyler and Wade.
I think we missed a scene. Is there with Annabella and Elwyn talking about going to Phoenix Gate.
You're right. I didn't even make a note of that.
So actually, again, after we see Clive and Jill talking, we see a scene with Elwyn and Annabella. So their parents, king and queen, and we see Elwyn kind of planning on a map. And Annabella is basically saying, don't take Joshua, he's sick. And you're like, oh, yeah, this makes sense. So he was coughing earlier.
We explained a lot of the things in the throne room, but this is actually where he explains a lot of those things.
Yep.
With the Phoenix Gate and all that stuff. Right.
So, yeah, right. Yeah, glad we brought this up because it's actually pretty important.
This is where he explains
all mentions that again that, yes, they have to do this ceremony before war. Got to go, bring Joshua to the dominant to this place, pray to, to the Phoenix.
Oh, yeah, in Keynote, he says only the dominant can enter the Phoenix Gate, so yes, I have to take Joshua with me.
And again,
she begs him not to.
And again, we see her biased. She, just is like, no, I'm so worried about Joshua. And then Elwyn says, Clive will protect him. And she basically is like, F that. He's no good. The Phoenix didn't choose him.
Yeah.
So now you understand.
She even says something along the lines of
you see more in him than the Phoenix did. He was rejected, Elwyn. Our household has no place for such a failure. He is worthless. A man like any other.
Quickly
really doesn't like Clive.
Why she doesn't like Clive, because he wasn't chosen.
Yeah. He's a failure to the family.
And you get that she's very about noble and the blood, right?
I found it funny then she tries
now she's trying to persuade Elwyn,
and
right?
she
a little
sits
bit
on his lap in front. And,
so you're getting a little risque scene again.
And he just pushes her off and stands up and is like, I gotta leave early in the morning.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, jeez.
I immediately had a thought then. I was like, because just did that kind of zoomed in on her face, and I was like, oh, I just knew
there's some weird dynamic with these two.
I was like,
they're not lovey-dovey.
Yes,
right?
And I was
you get that right off the bat.
She's gonna do you pissed her off now. She's gonna do something about that. So
that was your last chance of something. You definitely get that feel with her. You look and you're like, huh.
So now
we jump to the morning, and then you meet Tyler and Wade. They come with you, and you leave with Clive. And then this is where they talk more about the blight destroying land and stuff.
Yes, you get a little bit more understanding of the blight now.
So this actually, you get your first look at the world map.
Couple things here, yeah.
It brings you up to the world map menu, shows you where Rosalith is, and another place pops up, and it's the only place you can click, and you have to go click on it.
Can't do too much yet.
So but it just kind of shows you this is what the world map's going to look like. This is how fast traveling from place to places are going to go. So you click on that, and then you jump right into, and then it's another scene, and you're walking forward as Clive with Tyler and Wade by you, which also now, if you go to the menu and you go to the attributes one, you notice in the bottom right they have 8-bit figures.
I love it.
And it's
I thought that was amazing.
So this is the only way, though, that you get to see party members, but you see that Tyler and Wade are in your party.
Correct.
With you, and there's a little Clive, and they're little versions, like 8-bit, and they're doing, like, the fist bump thing.
Just a great nod to, like, classic Final Fantasy.
And just a cool way to just be like, here's in your party member.
It's so simple. And it's like, it's every old Final Fantasy fan's going to appreciate it.
Okay, are they party members? Are they guests? Because we don't get to, that's all you see on the menu of them.
And
right?
So you can't like go to anything.
Yeah.
But you're still like, okay, this is like the very beginning of the game. So maybe
I already have party members. So maybe this is like a Biggs and Wedge at the beginning of 6.
Yes, exactly.
Or like 9 where they have the Cinna and all those other guys.
Yeah. That's Marcus and Blank.
Blank. Yeah.
Like,
so maybe
this
it's one
might
of
be
those
a thing.
where they're not.
Some guests,
they're just guests, So you're still kind of holding on for.
I think you have a couple more menu options now. I think you actually unlock abilities.
Yes, which there's a lot. I don't know if we want to go over all of them. Basically, there's a lot that you get. You open and and you see the Phoenix is in the center.
Yep.
And no. In the center is just open big circle. Then above it is Phoenix with a locked ability. You can't unlock the second or third one yet, but there's one ability, and that was your ability you were able to use. Your square.
Correct. The solid uppercut.
And then it shows that the circle ability is linked to the Phoenix.
Yeah.
Is what your circle ability is. And then you have a bunch of other ones where you can learn them for AP.
Kind of do like a lunge.
Typical ability points. You earn ability points from fighting guys and doing other things. But then that levels up and it learns some other things, like you can jump on the enemy, you can do a lunge move, or one that's really cool that I love to do, the Burning Blade.
Yes.
So if you hold square, then you can set it on fire, your sword on fire.
Charged attack.
Yeah.
And you can also do that with your magic.
Yes. And then both of them also level up again. You can upgrade them again for a lot more AP, and then they charge faster.
Yeah.
So, but at the beginning, you probably can't learn anything really at the very beginning here. So you're very basic, just your attacks.
You already kind of see, how you can grow a little bit, maybe a little bit of customization to your abilities,
tree, if you will.
Yes,
or your Crystarium type thing. This is how you're going to learn and how you're going to differentiate what you want to learn first. You also realize that you can upgrade the ability. And that was what we were just talking about. They don't tell you this, and he was just. Frankie was just saying how he just figured this out like 40 hours into the game.
At least, yes, literally.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to explain it.
So I'm assuming in the beginning you can do it too.
Oh yeah.
I just learned that basic. If you mouse over, if you go over an ability and press triangle, it gives you a full description. There's a little summary like, hey, this move does this. Well, then this one will break down what it does more, and then leveling it up, what it happens. And then it kind of almost gives you like a little tip in the bottom where it'll be like, use this on multiple enemies, or, so you get a couple different things. And so then you can kind of see, if you master it, how much better it gets, blah, blah. You get a little bit more of a description.
Yeah.
Just figured that out. But that's something I'm pretty sure is in the very beginning of the game, so now you can always, if you're not sure before you spend points on something, you can look at it. You can also, at any point, reset your abilities.
The best part about it, you can reset it at any point, no cost. It's not like it's going to cost more the next time. Absolutely no cost. So you learn all these things, and then you're like, I don't like that ability.
Yep.
You just hold square on it, resets it, gives you all your ability points back, and you can reallocate them.
Now there's no fear of like, oh, should I or shouldn't I get this?
You just should I do this first? Like, try it. And you didn't like it? Right away. Even in the middle of a battle, I think you can't do it in the middle.
I think I did try, There was something you couldn't do. It was either change your abilities or like your gear.
I think those are two things you can't do in the middle of battle. But yeah, so now we get our first place. And
yes, first kind of
I don't know if we need to talk a lot about this stuff. This is the part where I'm gonna thinking we can kind of just jump through. You run through, you see a few scenes, and
you're just doing a couple battles. You're getting the feel for the battle system now. Yep.
Basically, as goblins do show up, there are monsters in this place. They are coming down.
A little comment of they're coming down they're this close. They're coming down from north. Slowly fighting more goblins, and you get to, I would call it a mini boss, right?
Yeah, which we learn these are like your quote unquote missions. These places. We'll find out later, but like you start to realize this is kind of how the game is going to set up. Like these are kind of your missions you go through, and every single one of them seems to be you fight a mini boss or a boss like halfway through that has a bar now up in the top right, as opposed to just all the little ones, all the mini guys
they
have a bar up
this
top there.
Other bar as well, the stagger bar.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, we didn't bring that up in the tutorial.
That's correct.
Which it does bring it up there that they have a stagger bar.
Yeah.
And now, if you played 13, that sounds very familiar. And it is very. It's kind of similar. Because 13 was like you build it up and it could go down. This is like you constantly just knock down an extra bar. It's like a secondary health bar.
Yeah, almost like an armor, basically. Once their armor is down, you can do more
and it gets a
health damage.
It gets to a halfway point, and it breaks, which kind of stuns them for a second. And then if you get it all the way, then it stuns them for a while, and you do bonus damage. You do stagger damage.
Yep.
The more combo you do during it, the more it builds up the amount of damage.
Burst damage.
I think you can do like 1.5 times damage.
Something like that, yeah.
I think it's what it is at max.
That's the goal. You kind of get the dynamic of the battle is these mini bosses, these bosses that have the stagger gauge. You're trying to slowly work them down and then do a bunch of damage. Once they're staggered, kind of repeat.
Yeah.
So you end up going
So
against
the first boss is Gigas. He's called just a fat,
big old goblin,
troll-looking thing.
Or troll, but yes, yep.
That's pretty easy. There's nothing really to.
And I feel like Sir Wade had a great line. He goes,
"Shit! He's invited a friend."
Holy shit! Like something. He says it just like said something actually funny. And we forgot to comment that earlier. There was another line of dialogue.
I skipped it. Yeah, when BS is running. The guy who gets killed, he's running. Yeah.
So very earlier, when it was actually forward in time, and Titan and Shiva are fighting.
I had the notes. How did I forget it?
Yeah. I know you wanted to bring it up. You're running, and the earth is just crumbling around you. Blasts of ice are like appearing, and then you all of a sudden hear a character just go fuck. And I'm sure you had the same reaction.
I laughed
so hard because I was literally thinking that in my head. Like
I think I said it, out loud.
Like you're walking around,
and then you hear him saying it in the background.
It feels very just
so
real because like any person would just be screaming that as just the entire world is just crumbling around you.
It's so good.
So then again, you get a couple curses, you get a couple
definitely adult.
Couple risky kind of like scenes already. We've seen a lot of blood and people dying already. So really putting just the M to good use. Loving the dialogue. One of another great thing that they did that's I don't want to call it too small because it's I think adds so much to it. You start to see the characters get dirty.
Yeah.
After like a fight, they are covered in blood and dirt.
Yeah,
it may go
in scenes and everything too,
and it may like go away in like the next scene where like they'd still be covered, but it's like
you
see like
his face will be covered in blood
after you beat this this mini boss. Like you see him like shake the blood off, and you see them like and it's like dirty. It just adds to
one of those details I kind of forget as you're playing along, but it is so good.
Yeah, it's very awesome.
Subtle, but so. After you beat him, there's this little scene, and then this little goblin with the horn runs off, and they're like, after him, he's going to tell all the other goblins. So you keep chasing him, and this is very straightforward. It's the first place. There's not much to really...
Again, another little feature. I was a little taken back at first. So you in this area, you quickly figure out you're basically just going A to B. It's that kind of corridor. Mm-hmm. It seems more open. You maybe can go here. Okay, you basically quickly realize there's not much.
It's very much like a 13 or 10 area.
But how they make it better is there's no mini-map.
Yeah. Oh,
there's no map. Yeah. Actually, in general.
I can't believe it. Yeah, there is no map in these places.
So
it's not as simple as you look at the mini map and you're like, oh, there's an extra side corridor here, so of course there's a treasure box.
There is nowhere else to go. It is just straight. You don't know if there is anywhere else, so
you're spinning in circles and looking all over.
Yeah,
where's an item? Is it over here? Is it over there?
So they do that little.
So this took me like an hour the first time playing through because I was trying to find things and go through it all. Second time through, I did it in like 5 minutes. I think.
Yeah, right. So again,
it's so easy then.
So again, I think they do a great job of okay, this is... I can already hear people like online complaining. It's just the corridors. It's too straightforward.
Yeah,
People
I was
love to
already
complain
worried
about that.
But it was like, take the map out. That's so good.
Take the map out, and now you have to explore the whole area.
And then how you don't get like totally confused and turned around. They give you an ability. You can hold the left L3, and it gives you... Later on, it explains it better. At this point, it's just like, you have like a sense for where you're supposed to go.
It just points you.
And basically, it's just like
points you forward.
Hey, listen.
Yeah,
and it's like kind of points you over, and it's like this is maybe where you want to go. So you start going through. Oh, there's little things too that I guess to note. Like you get up to, and there's like a boarded off area.
Yeah.
And you go and hit X to it, and then you have to like hold R2, and you can feel. I love the PS5 controllers.
This
you can
took me
feel, and
like the second or third time doing it to realize no, you know what?
It's different based on what you're doing.
Yes, there's resistance in the trigger bar. And
based
I literally,
on
after doing that, I sat there and pressed it a couple of times. I was like, why did it get sticky? I was like, what was that? Yeah. And then realized,
I forgot
that was
it has that ability until you...
Again, just a little like small thing.
There's a part
just
later where you're doing
fun.
like a gate, and it's like really like have to push
you
it.
actually
like, really,
have to.
Like, it's strong, so...
I don't know how they do that.
Little tiny detail.
I don't know how that works in the controller. Like,
it's
that's
based
awesome.
in the controller. I know they have the ability, and it's mostly for shooters. But anyway, so little detail. So anyways, you go through another small section. Then you catch up to this little goblin, and you think you're gonna start fighting him.
Yep.
But surprise!
All of a sudden, Marlboro pops up. So now another classic Final Fantasy monster, and they just do this little like slow-mo thing as you just watch him just get eaten.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
And
I love it. I was like,
again,
ready?
I'm still waiting for like a scene. Like I set the controller down. I'm like, there's gonna be like a scene, and it's just you see this thing eat the goblin,
and then it's like
you are in the fight.
And boss battle number 2, and you're like,
if you're a Final Fantasy fan, you're like, no, you don't fight a Marlboro now.
Yeah, I kind of thought I was like, am I just gonna automatically die in this one? Because like we're just gonna bad breath and just like pass out.
You think you're gonna run away? You're not gonna actually do the. No, this is your
where
first
though,
like boss.
I learned one little bad detail I've learned.
Okay.
He does bad breath. You don't really have status effects. He does like damage with it, and I think it does kind of like slow you down, but
like a stun.
You don't get like poison or confused and run around
dark.
Weird,
you can't miss.
Yeah, I haven't noticed any status effects like that.
Yeah, so you'll kind of catch on to that.
That's
shortly
a
and
little
soon.
bit of a bummer where it's
not necessarily buffs and debuffs.
Yeah,
you were kind of saying that it's like
There's some features where they bring it in here and there, but it's not. Yeah, you don't just get poisoned.
Yeah,
it's not your typical.
You start to realize like again like you don't have MP, so there's no. You can just keep doing magic. Your abilities just have a cooldown. So again, there's not. So kind of fun because there's no like.
Yeah, I took it though as like the stagger gauge is your like. So your magic seems to be what does more stagger, and your physical attacks do more like HP. It seems like for the most part, and certain abilities then do more stagger than they do damage. So that's where that kind of comes. And magic damage to physical attack.
Yes, so you have a stat. You have attack stat and a stagger stat.
I should probably
stagger is what you explained, basically your magic.
Yeah. That's how I looked at it, as a stagger is your magic attack more so. But so anyways, it's a pretty fun fight. Not anything too difficult actually. You gotta make sure you dodge though.
Yeah.
You really gotta start learning that. Okay, you do have to dodge some abilities. You can't just sit here and hit square unless you're playing the easy mode, which everybody's gonna probably want to comment on and say, "Oh, you can just press square and it's so easy." Well, yeah, if you're on story mode with all the accessories they give you, where yes, my 2-year-old could probably play and win.
Right.
That's the concept of it.
That's the point. That if you
play the hard mode,
yeah,
or the normal action
mode.
Focused mode,
yeah,
play that without any accessories adding on to automatic dodging and combos and stuff. And it can be difficult.
You're gonna have to heal.
If you're not paying attention, you could die.
Yeah.
So
and you get introduced to the cinematic events in a battle.
Oh, yes.
So after you like probably stagger him once or twice, you've gotten a little bit of chunk of your health.
I think they did bring it up earlier, but we haven't probably.
Oh, that's right, yeah. So then all of a sudden you're introduced to this little scene in the middle of the fight. And you have to press Square.
Very Kingdom Hearts-like.
Yes, yeah.
Kingdom Hearts 2, especially.
Kingdom Hearts 2, yeah, totally. Yeah, there's the the
3,
reaction
yeah.
commands, yeah. So, and I bet a bunch of other games do this.
Yeah.
I'm getting
Pretty stable in that.
probably like a God of War kind of like, I'm sure that happens in there.
I love how fluid it is, though.
But again, yeah, so it's switching between this kind of cutscene, this in the battle, and you're kind of like, what's going on? Gives you plenty of time to press square, but at the same time, it's just...
I missed one of them because I forgot it came up, and I was writing notes, and I was sitting there, and then like...
I was wondering, I wanted to purposely do it because I wonder if it changed the scene.
It does.
So you do this really cool scene, Clive jumps up in the air and just stabs him like in the head.
A bunch of damage.
And then staggers him again. So now you get to just unload. Then almost...
Unload.
Then you do, kind of repeat again, you stagger him again. He goes to do that same cinematic event, but this time it's a dodge. So now you have to press R1. Little bit of a different scene.
Just to break up the monotony of the fight. It's fun.
Yes, yeah. And
gives you a scene.
So again, not too tough, because then it kind of gives you a way to do easy damage and like staggers them so you can do more damage. So again, not the hardest fight, getting introduced to some new things, getting the feel for it a little bit.
It's very like putting your toes in the water.
Yeah.
Getting your foot in the water. Just like, here's a little bit to the battle. We're not going to overwhelm you with the whole bunch. But here's it feels kind of like with 13, where it was like, here's one class, and like you're just gonna really have attack and a couple.
You just got the one ability.
You only got like 3 ATVs, and we're just gonna jump in. And then like later, spoiler, later it gets way crazier and way more customizable. But right now it's like we're very basic.
Yeah.
Here's a straightforward. Here's how the game is gonna go in this direction. So, anyways, after we see the scene, basically, Clive says with Tyler and Wayne, they were like, that's really weird that not only goblins, but a marble, which it's not Marlboro, they call it a marble.
And I think in 12 they were marbles?
Marbles? Yeah, I wonder if that was always just a translation thing this whole time.
Right. Yeah, like is that always supposed to just be
marble,
a marble?
But they mistranslated one of the early ones as Marlboro.
I think in 14 those kind of pop up too.
It's the same.
It's the same. Marlboro, marble thing.
Yeah. The weird tentacle things and does the
bad
giant
breath. Yeah.
mouth and does bad breath. So, anyway, so then it jumps us right into...
So you go...
Or we go back to the menu, the world map menu.
Yes.
It jumps us right to there. And you can only choose the Phoenix.
Where to go. Yeah. One thing I kind of noticed a little quickly, I thought was maybe a little weird.
Tyler looks like Jensen Ackles.
No, but yeah, shout out to that.
Yeah.
Did he do the face
I don't know,
capture or something? Because that's hilarious.
Like, it's Jensen Ackles with red hair. I don't
Yep.
Anyway, sorry.
You can't, one, open up the menu on the world map. And two, you can't save.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, when it's doing these scene ones where you're going from like a story focused, force you into the world.
So
because later on you can bring up the world map at any point and do it.
Correct.
Kind of.
But at this point, when
during story moments, yeah, it was like it's
a little weird because you almost feel like it's kind of giving you this like little break. It's kind of like doing that, like, hey, if you want to save now, save now, but you kind of can't.
It goes straight into the next thing.
So like you do this thing, you're like, oh, maybe you're thinking I'm just gonna fight this boss. I'm just gonna get through this area. Well, you get through it, see like a little scene, and then you kind of have to go to the next scene. So you get kind of in these long cutscenes.
Yeah, sometimes where it's a long.
So this one, all of a sudden,
there is an autosave, but it doesn't. It's very subtle, and I never noticed when it's saving. So
same, but I do think I noticed. Like it
saves up to 10.
Yes, I love this feature that.
Which I haven't utilized a lot, but it definitely is amazing.
So it saves up to 10 autosaves. So let's say you reach a point and you're like, I want to go back a little bit. It's not just like, 1 minute,
Because I did actually use it. There's one part later where you have to choose between certain things or whatever, and I realized I didn't like what I chose. Yep. And so then I went back to an autosave that went and found one that went before that whole choice and did a different one. So that's where I was like, it's an awesome feature.
I like that. I do
or if
a
you
lot
forget
of
to save.
just if you forget to save, or if you kind of just want to rewatch something, redo a fight real quick. It's like I love it. I've been doing that like a lot.
Yeah.
So then you have. Again, I think it's weird on the world map that you can't access the menu or save, because you get these long cutscenes. So you might be thinking, all of a sudden you're like, okay, just beat a boss. Normally you get to save, right? Yeah. Well, then we kind of get thrust into a decent long cutscene, and now it starts getting really good. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because now this is where stuff. Let's just jump right into it.
Yep.
So you jump into, you're at Phoenix Gate now. You click on it, and then it jumps into another scene, and it's Joshua and Elwyn sitting at a table. Total Game of Thrones, like after victories happen. Everybody's drinking, and it's a feast going on. And these guys are partying, saying a whole bunch of nonsense stuff.
Wade, so like one of the guys you're with, you see him kind of telling the stories, and the prince defeats the Morble, and everybody's cheering.
More stories.
You see them all just drinking, and again, I'm loving everybody's smoking and drinking, in here, and it's like it's
drinking and smoking. No, that's just you, Snoop.
Yeah. That's you.
It's you.
But so you get this. It helps being more realistic. This is what soldiers would do when they're preparing for battle. They'd be drinking.
Oh, and this is where we learn. We went more into detail on this earlier, but this is now Joshua and Elwyn are having a conversation. Joshua's kind of like, I don't understand it.
Like, why am I here? Then, he's watching all these drunk soldiers. Right?
Elwyn kind of brings in how he has a responsibility as the dominant of the Phoenix and blah blah blah, and explains all that, which we've already explained earlier, and I think this is more of the it encompasses it more. Yeah. So there's that scene, and then they start doing some singing or something, and Joshua finds a moment, and he slips away to his bedroom. And he slips out and talks to Clive.
Slips away. Also, quick note. I'm curious if they end up fixing this, because a big complaint of people was this motion blur.
So they did change it. You can turn it off. Mm-hmm. There was an update. It took like a week. But
took a week or two. There was a patch. But at first...
I don't like it.
At first, when you're going, moving the camera, you would totally notice a blur. Yeah. People were I've read online, people were complaining about getting sick from it.
I didn't like it at first. During the demo, I thought, that's making me kind of dizzy or something.
I actually turned down, your camera speed. So, because if you have fast, it was and you couldn't see anything. So I turned it slower to help it a little bit. Again, they fixed it, which is just... it's just a sign of Yoshi P, because if you are familiar with Final Fantasy XIV at all, you totally see it. The game gets better. He listens to the fan base. They listened right away. They're like, this either needs to get turned down or turned off.
And they heard it from the demo, and it only took them then a week after it being... So
the demo was out for a week, and the game was out for a week. So I think in 2 weeks they released a patch and fixed a couple of these things. I guess
they fixed the frame rate issue that people were complaining about, which I didn't really notice until you get to world map and you see monsters way off in the distance.
Correct.
And I'm like,
that's gonna happen.
Yeah. The only time I noticed frame rate while playing was just now when I was trying to download as I recorded, and I recorded 5 minutes of screens, and then as the next thing was playing out, it was trying to download in the background, and then sometimes the frame rates would drop just a little.
Yeah.
But that's the only time I've noticed it. Otherwise, it's so smooth.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, again, graphics look great.
So smooth.
And plays so smooth. There's one scene, I don't know if they fixed it after this patch. Josh was talking to Elwyn, and he moves his fork, and he moves around, his veggies, and it was just this big blur happened. When he's moving, there's this
I didn't even notice it.
Big tracer, and then that was my point. I'm like, that's what people are talking about, the motion blur and stuff like that. And that's the thing. Again,
I didn't notice.
They just already patched it basically, so it's that's just
it's so good.
Just one big complaint that you could say about it, and they already fixed it.
That motion blur thing though, I was like, yes, and then I loaded it up and I turned it off immediately, and then started spinning, and I was like, oh no, that's so much worse. Turn the blur back on.
You have to have it on, but way less than what they had.
I think I just turned it right. I got by playing through the whole demo twice, I got so used to it.
Yeah.
That now I just turned it back on, and I was like, you know what? Never mind. I actually like the blur. Because then you see everything, and it was like when you're looking out a car window and you're like tree. That's what it felt like when I was turning without the blur.
Right.
So I was like, now I see what the blur is on. So you're not focused on detail. Anyways, so it's a cool detail.
Yeah. So I was just little part there in that scene. You might be looking for that now going forward in some scenes. There's maybe a little bit of a blur, but it's overall just outstanding graphics.
So I forgot to take notes on what Joshua and Clive talk about outside.
Basically, so at this point, you're just getting a little bit more background of Joshua's duty as the Phoenix.
Oh yeah, and you get more of their brotherhood together,
yep,
and how much they really care for each other.
And like with Elwyn and Joshua earlier, kind of at like that like feast, kind of explains the Phoenix, the dominant becomes the like king. So you have you're next in line. You have this duty. Everybody kind of looks up to you. And then Joshua basically goes and talks to Clive, and he's kind of saying like, I have this big burden almost, I feel like is kind of like the word he uses. Like this, how am I supposed to live up to being the king? And then Clive is basically like, I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
That's
right.
why
He's
I'm
like,
the shield.
And he's like, I'm your shield. I am
to help you. I am here to help you bear that burden. But like, it is yours.
That's right.
And even Joshua now says it, what you maybe have all been thinking at this point. He goes, it should have been you. The Phoenix should have chosen
That's
you, Clive.
Right. This is where he says that.
It isn't fair. It should have been you. I don't have what it takes to lead our people. I don't have the strength. But you do.
This made me think when this first came up too, and watching the demo, because he's always coughing.
Yes.
That's just always kind of coughing, and they're saying like you're sick, and he's always saying like everybody's looking at me as like weak, but like so like does he have some sort of disease of some sort that like he's always been like fickle and weak?
It seems like that, yeah.
And it kind of continues throughout it. So like every scene we've seen so far, he's like coughing and that theme. So I don't know. I was curious as if that was something to do with it. Why they don't seem to like put their trust all in Joshua, and it's like, oh, sure.
Yeah,
Clive's the better fighter, obviously.
And then because now they were just singing his praises. Joshua's commenting on that. He's like, they're all singing like your praise. They're like looking up to you, and he kind of says he had to prove himself. It wasn't the case.
Yeah.
But then again, he has proved himself to be like a knight, a strong shield. Where Joshua just seems like this sickly kid. Why is he going to become the king?
Yeah.
And even Joshua knows it.
Yeah.
And that's what you're probably thinking as the player.
Yeah,
you're kind of like, yeah, what the hell?
Yeah.
Then they kind of say, good night. You should get some rest.
And then
now it gets crazy good. I think
this is when I became hooked.
Yeah.
This was
you won't be able to put the game down now after this. I think before you see Joshua waking up to some noise.
Before it jumps to the front gate.
Yes, you see some guys at the gate where you're at.
And there's a few guys rolling up in caravans, whatever, like 3 or 4 of them it looks like. And they roll up and there's guards and they go, what do you got? And he's like, oh, it's the food or something like that.
Yep.
They order, and the guy was like,
it seems real normal.
You're really late. And he's like, yeah, sorry, I ran into some trouble, whatever. And he's like, bring him along. And as he's walking past, the merchant, if you will, with the caravan, slits the guard's throat.
And you just see it.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't just kind of cut away.
No, it's not like
It just...
Oh, it's implied no, it's straight up just watches him. It's Game of Thrones style. You just see all of it.
The sound.
Yeah. And the other guard on the other side, then somebody else takes care of him immediately.
Same thing.
And you go, oh...
I think this
shit,
is...
What just happened?
Already...
What is going on?
Another scene in this very short time beginning where my jaw literally hit the floor.
I was like...
Again,
okay.
just not quite expecting this kind of... What's the word? Mature, again.
Yeah.
Just...
Like, there has been, but I feel like there hasn't been since the era of... like 3D and realistic graphics.
Again, it just hit. Again, it looks so realistic.
They have moments of like they were just talking
game.
about. I was just listening to the podcast of 4 from every FNFF, and they're talking the beginning of 4 when you go to the scene, you blow up like their home, and like the beginning you're like attacking the mages.
The first thing is you go and destroy a kingdom and steal a crystal. Yeah.
That you hadn't seen though in such a realistic looking graphics.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've seen something this like gruesome and adult like as what we've been seeing
on
so
that
far.
level of realism
Yes.
in the graphics.
In the
Exactly.
graphics
So
and the blood and everything.
you
with
just
it, so.
it looks like you literally just saw
so
somebody's
you're-
throat get slit. So you're
I'm
like,
not,
whoa.
this is Final Fantasy? I'm not used to this. I guess in Type O, somebody did say in Type O it is kind of like...
Yeah, Typo is another one.
And again, like, Tactics has darker moments, but, like,
Very
it's so low-quality graphics, you don't know, like, is that blood or is that just a blob? So.
Yep.
Anyhow, though...
So they quickly invade.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know who they are yet, but there is
Yeah.
somebody, and they kind of just sneak in, and they basically say that's easy.
Yeah.
And now we see some other knights in, like, full armor come in, and you're like, okay, I think we're
This is
under
a
attack now.
Full-on invasion.
Yeah.
Jumps to Joshua waking up in bed, and after hearing a noise, and then he walks to his door, and we see Sir Wade bust through the door, saying, "We're under attack, you need to come with me."
And he literally says, like, half of the place is on fire already. So
Yeah.
it's not like a, oh, hey, like, I don't know, you're not in good shape.
No, it's,
You're like-
it's immediately like, we need to get you out of here.
Yeah.
This is bad. This is an invasion raid. I don't know what's going on. So
Then you
now,
get to control Joshua.
Oh, it's so
which was
cool.
such a cool
so
thing to do.
Cool little detail. Immediately, I think I yelled, "Fuck yeah!"
Yeah, dude. I was like,
"Fuck yeah!" I get to meet Joshua. Oh, so excited.
So you immediately try to look and see as much of his abilities and stats
Yeah,
as
and
you
of
can.
course,
They don't give you too much.
show you really anything, but you do. So you go around, go through a couple of little corridors and a couple through doors, and you fight a couple of other guards with Wade helping you. Which, by the way, Wade is actually pretty strong.
But yeah, he was
He
basically
was
like
good.
two shots on.
Yeah.
So
Like,
all you have to do is just like
Yeah.
you get you have like what Fire Aga,
yeah, I think it's Fire Eye right off the bat,
which is hilarious.
and
Yeah.
Kiraga,
And he just
that's
sends
it.
a giant fireball
Yeah.
at them.
Yeah,
It's
but it's really slow.
yes.
It takes
Very
a while.
slow,
in
and he
between.
literally is like afterwards, like same thing with like you don't really need to heal, but it does like max like 99,000, right?
Yeah, it's ridiculous, but
But
That's
and
fun.
then I think
He
you
goes
can
through and fight a
do
couple-
like a melee attack. He kind of goes like and like a little bit of fire streaks
Yeah,
like across.
yeah.
Basically, you're just gonna sit back and do Fire Aga, one shot these guys. Still very cool.
just cool that you get to do it.
that you gotta
Even though it's only for like 2-3 little fights.
little fights,
Is
but
all
you
it is.
just
You go through these
this
things.
was a great way to just I don't know.
You get more
Relate to Joshua more.
Yes.
You're more attached to him. And I was thinking about this
care
with
for the character and everything.
what was a good example? In 15, you leave your kingdom, and then your kingdom gets destroyed, and you're like, I never got to explore it.
Yeah, I don't have any attachment.
really
I don't
exactly.
know. Yeah.
So then you have, in Rosalith, you were able to explore just a little bit. Mm-hmm. That you kind
Some
of have
people,
that.
and we've had just enough scenes with some people, right, to get start to get attached to Joshua
Yeah.
because of the conversations between Elwyn and with Clive so far,
Mm-hmm.
and there's little interactions that we've kind of skipped over too, but there's more of them.
And
You're
just
with Jill, and
You're
so you
rooting
start
for the
to-
little sickly kid
Yeah,
that just has
so
this
we're-
big burden. Like
we're
you got to be a
starting-
king, and you're like,
I hope he
I gotta
sticks
get-
around.
yeah. You're like, I gotta get him out of here
Yeah,
before
so
something
this
bad
is-
happens.
This is yeah. So you go through just a little bit with him, and then you run into a spot and you meet
Tyler!
who's on the ground, like big old gash coming out of his side. He looks like he is on death's door, right?
Somehow still kicking. Yeah.
Yeah,
And you're like,
and
what?
they're like, oh no, he's in bad shape. Joshua tries to start healing him, and then also
And does, which is actually very cool. You kind of
Yeah.
actually get, I don't know, like you may just wonder, like, what does Kier look like? And when they use the magic in
Yeah.
Final Fantasy, he kind of, I don't know if he's doing Kier, but he's just using kind of probably the Phoenix powers, and you kind of
Yeah.
get to see him kind of like
Just
heal a
greenish,
wound.
yeah, the typical
And-
greenish magical looking stuff.
Yeah, so
And
I thought
heals him so enough so that it's like he's not immediately
basically like
gonna
stops
die.
the bleeding is basically what it kind of.
He still is like hunched over, sitting, and he like can't really walk himself, but he is like not necessarily
bleeding
critical.
out. Yeah.
He might not die immediately. Still gonna need some help. But so then all of a sudden, busting through the door is
You're prepared for like another fight.
yeah, and about ready to attack him, and turns out it's Clive, Elwyn, and Lord Commander Murdoch who are looking for you as Joshua. Basically, they just kind of do a little conversation and say,
Of like shit's hitting the fan.
"Yeah,
we gotta go.
We gotta get out of here." Joshua, you and Elwyn go get to a chocobo and get out of here.
Yes, we will kind of,
and then we'll find them and
off.
stop them.
I immediately was like, "Oh no!"
It's like every horror film, you don't split.
You don't split up.
I don't. That was the one thing I don't really get. Why does Murdoch go? No, he stays with Clive.
Wade and Tyler
go with. That's.
I mean, I think the idea was so they shouldn't stay there. They should get away because obviously they're in danger. But I don't know why Clive and the Lord Commander didn't stay. I guess it makes sense. They have to fight off the enemy. Like that's the Lord Commander's duty.
You go through the I think it was like basically where they're at. I think they were getting at like go out the door. We're at the back of the gate. Mm-hmm. The chocobos are right there. Go out the back. There's guys there that are able to help you get out.
Yeah.
And so they're like, go here, leave. We'll stop them from getting to there. So you go forward. Now you're back with Clive, and you have Lord Commander Murdoch as your new guest.
So very cool again. Another party member, and you're kind of still like it's early enough. This kind of makes sense. Like why he doesn't really have anything in the menu or control. I'm like, oh, okay. You're like, oh no, I'm not Joshua anymore. Darn.
Yeah.
But you're back to Clive. Do a couple fights, going along kind of through this area. Again, you're kind of getting.
I think at this point they mention that they're Sandbreck soldiers, and they're like, "What are the Sandbreck soldiers doing?"
Thank God for speaking it, because if you were just reading Sandbreck,
we butchered the shit out of it last episode. So,
I don't know.
Sandbreck. They say it multiple times.
Yes.
I'm pretty positive that's how it's said.
Yeah.
Sandbreck army.
Wade has a comment. He goes something like, he's like, it's these knights are, Sandbreck. They're supposed to be our allies. Why are they attacking us? Mm-hmm. So you're kind of wondering,
you're like, okay, what is
so you catch on. You were going to go to war with the Ironblood.
Yeah.
And then now you have this other nation, this other nation. And you're like, who are these people? And they're supposed to be your friends. Like, great.
Well, they're attacking me. So you fight a couple of guys, go through, and then almost right away, you get to see, if you're familiar with 14, it was pretty apparent. There's almost an exact scene, I swear. In 14.
Well, actually, so what happens right before it? You I won't even say like a mini boss. You do like a little battle, and you fight off some knights. You kick their butts.
Yeah.
Oh, you see these knights. You literally see them just like finishing blow.
Yeah, that's
right. You see them just stabbing like dead bodies already.
Everybody's dead.
Everybody died.
These guys have slaughtered like everyone in there. There's
you
pretty
like
much
basically
nobody left.
Yeah, you feel like you are the only person left. You see these people just killing like basically
5-6 soldiers.
Yeah, just getting that last
cool white full armor knights coming in, big swords.
So you're ready to kick their ass. And you're like, oh
yeah.
Do a quick fight with them, whoop them.
Yeah.
And then you get to see a dragoon. So if you're a Final Fantasy fan at all, another nod here.
Yeah.
Clive, look out! May I have this dance? He's an Imperial.
If you are a Final Fantasy XIV fan, you will immediately recognize the dragoon's voice as Astinian, which is an amazing nod. Again, love that.
And he does a very similar scene that I swear Astinian does in Heaven's Word somewhere.
I think that's what finally figured out. He said something, like,
like
dodge this, and you're like, wait, I recognize that.
I didn't quite pick up on it. It took me to see somebody say it on Twitter, and I was like, oh, yes, how did I not know? I was like, I knew there was a nod to something.
I loved how they depict a dragoon in 16. You do this quick fight, and then all of a sudden...
He's in similar color armor as the other guys, but just slightly different enough.
More
towards that dragoon style.
Classic dragoon pose. He's just up on a point, this peak, just tallest building. He just appears there.
Yeah.
And then you kind of hear like a quick look out, and he just like dives at you, and you're immediately like,
spear.
You're like, oh, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And then now you have to fight this dragoon.
This is where
this was, I would say, the first real boss. The Marlboro is still a little bit of a tutorial.
This one,
I don't think it tells you anything.
Yeah.
You are just go.
dodge right, you definitely could lose this one.
Mm-hmm.
You
start to see
your evades.
Yes, and I want to say quickly the hardest thing about that fight was the Malboro. I feel like if you just dodged one move, you dodged it. He has a follow-up, so now you dodge one.
Oh, yeah.
And then he'll hit you again. So now, again, you quickly have to learn.
This is where you start to realize, too, that the boss battles, you can tell that's a team from 14, because it kind of has the similar, like, I think when he does his jump, you'll see, like, a small area of where he's going to come down thing, and it's like, dodge from there. So, like, it kind of gives you small hints and, like, learn things, and a lot of bosses later on start to do this, where they have
I've been kind of curious
type things on the ground.
If you haven't played 14, would you be a little confused at that? Yeah. Is this maybe something that appears in other more action games? Because again, we know
it doesn't tell you. It's not like straight up like, oh, they're gonna watch out for these
again,
moves.
that's where I feel like this start to learn. Tutorial. You're kind of getting like tutorials over now. Mm-hmm. This is the real game.
Yeah,
that first area was the tutorial basically.
At this point. Basically menu tutorials from here on out is really all you're going to get.
Yeah.
It's a very basic thing. But, so we fight him.
So solid boss fight. Fun. You do another cinematic kind of attack or like dodge in there. Just, again, switching from cutscene to battle. Very cool.
I'm fine. So, they sent in the Dragoons. Imperial vipers. Do they really mean to invade us?
Not yet. Their numbers were too few. They were not here to take the castle. They were here to take heads.
Then all of a sudden he realizes, oh no, Joshua's in danger. Oh, but then they also pick up, realize
somehow
that
they figure out that the knights have...
There was like a napkin or something, or handkerchief, that they were like, we handed this out yesterday.
So basically they figure out that the knights are among them. They basically... Yeah. So then they're like, okay, we don't know now who's basically with us or who's against us now. Yeah. They kind of realize there's some people... This is an inside job
This is where I think where this hooded man in very much a... Organization 13 style, but in like a brown cloak.
Not just straight pitch black, brown.
And you only see like the bottom half, like from his mouth and chin, and you have no idea who this is. Kind of like almost floating, like. See him real quick, and Clive is just like, who is that? And then he disappears. It was like, they sent them, there was other guys at the gate, and they were like, back gate, and they're like, we know there's guys at the back gate that are going to help you get out. Mm-hmm. This is when Clive goes, oh no, Joshua's in danger.
Joshua's in danger.
Those guys are probably not good.
I think at this point now that it kind of gives you of another scene, meanwhile, what's happening. Right, with Joshua?
Yes, yep. Then we jump to Joshua and Elwyn.
So now Clive and the Lord Commander are like, crap, we have to get back to Joshua and the King. Mm-hmm. And... shows what they're going through, what's happening to them, and now you know that some of their soldiers, the Shields of Rosaria, some of them might not be good. Mm-hmm. So we see Elwyn and Joshua getting a chocobo and about to kind of get out, and these knights show up, and they're like, hey, we're here to help, and you're like, oh no. All of a sudden...
I'm sorry, Your Grace, but that won't be possible. You honorless snakes!
Stay back! I'm warning you!
Run, Joshua, run! No! Pig!
There's mid-sentence. Joshua's getting on a chocobo. All of a sudden, chocobo gets knocked down, gets cut down. Blood just, I think, goes everywhere. Chocobo falls on Joshua or something.
Yeah, that's right. They hit the chocobo first. Yep.
And so you're like, oh no.
And then Elwyn walks up kind of like, what is the meaning of this type thing?
And then they just are basically, head
is gone.
Basically you're like, yeah, we're traitors, you're done.
Head right off the shoulders. Falls basically into Joshua's lap.
Yeah. Joshua kind of tries to go at them, and Elwyn kind of goes to protect him and push him back. And in that just split second, whoosh,
Oh.
kind of cuts away.
Yeah, it doesn't quite show it. It's not quite as much of like Ned Stark's head and just rolls off.
Not quite as much,
pretty
but
close. You know, you
bloody.
see a little quick of it like hopping on the ground towards Joshua.
Yeah.
And you know it lands right in front of him.
And
Joshua's
covered in his blood.
Covered in his blood.
So another scene, Jaws hitting the floor. And now we start to see them come for Joshua. And we get to see our first example of a summon. Of an icon appearing.
This is where we figure out what they've been saying about the dominant of Phoenix. Joshua, understandably so, loses it. Mm-hmm. And starts seeing flashbacks of every scene that we've seen so far with him and his dad and starts I was supposed to protect him. I'm supposed to be the one.
Has a comment where he says, you have to protect father. Like, you got to protect the king.
And he's like, I had to do it. I was supposed to. And then as the guys all crowd to go after Joshua and grab him, he screams.
Yep.
And flames and like tentacle-like flames come off his back and set everyone on fire.
Everybody just spontaneously combusts in like anything nearby. And then it kind of does show Joshua then he transform into the Phoenix.
He totally just blows up, and he's a giant Phoenix. The same thing then that in the original, very, very beginning when we were fighting
to like, wait, this kind of looks familiar.
Yes. Then that's when Clive shows up with Murdoch and he starts yelling after. He's out of control. I have to stop him. And he starts running after him.
Calls the chocobo, or no, I think he runs
towards forward,
the Phoenix.
And then the Phoenix is like freaking out and knocks a boulder over, and Ambrosia comes and hits Clive out of the way and gets hit in the head with a boulder and is knocked over and full of blood. And
you're like, not the chocobo!
Yeah, assumed dead at this point.
Yeah.
Then how does this, though...
Because then the Lord Commander comes up, and Clive is basically still like, I have to go to Joshua.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, no, we gotta leave. He goes, it's kind of funny, like you said, you think the chocobo's dead, but he does say, like, get her out of here. So he sends and he pushes him, like, away. He tries to run to the Phoenix again, and then you get that high-pitched noise grabbing his head. Mm-hmm. And you're like, wait, what the hell's going on? This is like 7 when Cloud has his like episodes. It's just that like high ringing headache.
Or like when 8 when they pass out and they go to But his is like his head seems like it's about to explode.
Yes,
for him.
you basically see him just like fall down to his knees, and he can't move. And then all of a sudden, very briefly, you see this like
you don't see from where
fire silhouette like
around him. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like the hooded man kind of turns into this like fiery silhouette shadow kind of like thing.
Second icon of fire. That's impossible.
And then all of a sudden, an explosion of fire. And now you are taken to the very first scene. You see Ifrit.
Yeah. Well, first they do a little bit of fighting.
Yeah.
And then you see, and then Phoenix is like, who is that? Like, I think at this point he's always like, there's only supposed to be one icon of fire.
They do.
But now that's clearly another icon of fire.
Yes.
Who is that? And completely starts going on a rampage too. But now it seems like Joshua now is like, you hear his voice in control of Phoenix.
Yeah.
So it seems like he actually is in control. And he goes, I have to stop him. He's going to destroy everything. So they start fighting. And then, then all of a sudden you're jumped into that battle.
Before it was like a tutorial. Now it's like you have a health bar.
Yeah.
You could die.
Yeah. And it goes longer. So like you fall through this thing. And then it goes into, and it's a really long fight. And then you go into this whole other world. Which Joshua does say when as he's Phoenix, says the Emporium. Is that what it's called?
Pottery?
A pottery.
Is this the pottery?
Term, yeah.
But they're inside the Phoenix Gate where Joshua was supposed to... Only Joshua, as the Phoenix, is supposed to be able to enter. They're both in there and they're fighting. And it's a giant world
Which
with,
they, like,
towers.
they go, like, underground.
Yeah.
Right? Because, again, you're
so
doing
it's
that
almost like an
falling
underworld city. Underground city is, like, what this thing is.
And now you're introduced to, like, an icon battle, and it's long. It takes... You quickly realize you're not doing much.
Those cinematic things back and forth.
You're not attacking doing chunks of the health bar. Like, you're slowly chipping away.
Yeah.
There's, like, little events that are happening in
this one, there's not a lot
very
that
fun.
You can really just shoot fireballs and then dodge at the right time. So this one's not a whole lot. They get more intricate later. But it still is, goes on for a while.
So epic.
Ooh. And then at the end...
So you're kind of going back and forth in the fight, right? You're Phoenix, you're kicking Ifrit's butt. He comes back at you. You finally feel, you beat him, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then you watch another scene, and again, you kind of come back to, like, on top. You're not underground, like, anymore.
Yeah,
and you think
Ifrit does, like, hellfire, I think.
Yeah.
And, like, somehow, blows you up to, like, then there, and then, like, he jumps up and he's, like, landing on Phoenix.
So, because at first you think Ifrit's, like, knocked down. You're like, all right, we won.
Yeah.
And then he jumps up and just starts destroying Phoenix.
This scene I put on it as just brutal.
Brutal is, like, the only word that comes to mind.
At this point now we hear Clive's voice.
We kind of see,
and screaming, "Stop it!
Like, what are you doing?
Stop attacking my brother! Stop it!"
And you even hear Joshua cry out for help, like, "Clive, help me!"
Yeah.
And this, what is happening is Ifrit is literally ground and pound UFC.
But tearing,
beating away,
and
then you start to see claws and, like, blood come up, like, literally tearing
with
away,
claws and biting at his neck.
And you just, again, you hear it, like, you hear the punches, you just hear the ripping, and you're just...
It's a lot of it, too.
I remember
jaw completely
literally yelling at the TV.
Up with this
I'm, like, choking
up.
I'm like, fucking do something, Joshua! Fight back! Come on!
Oh, God. He tries to do a little bit of it,
Tries to fight back a little bit. He like, bites his head. Like, because like, he tries to, like, shoot a fire blast at Ifrit, and he, like, clamps down over him.
Oh, no, we see it later. Yeah. But then, basically, after he fights back, Ifrit kind of grabs him, picks him up. This is straight up Dr. Giro to Yamcha.
Oh, God,
and just fist through the chest. And
just
explodes and, like, sets him on fire.
Like, not even just, like, a pierce through. It was just like an explosion happens, too. And you
then
just
drops him
hear
to the ground.
Clive just scream out.
Murderer. I'll kill you! I'll fucking kill you!
No, and he's like, I'll kill you. I'll fucking kill you. And it's so good.
It's such...
The voice acting
acting is phenomenal.
I love it. You can just hear and feel everything.
That's exactly like how you feel. You just feel so like...
Murder. Oh, he says, murder. I'll kill you.
Yes, and you're like... so just stunned at what just happened.
Yeah.
And then we kind of see...
Then it's kind of like everything... And this is all at night.
Mm-hmm.
Now all of a sudden we see it's in the morning.
Kind of
everything's leveled. The fires are kind of all out. And we see the army kind of walking up and killing every last person that's surviving. And then...
I think first we see
her walk in.
Annabella, the Duchess of Rosaria.
Bitch.
Clive and Joshua's mom, with the people that just invaded and killed all of you. Killed all of the knights, the shields, and Rosaria.
My jaw hadn't even finished going back up from being dropped, and it dropped even further at this point.
And then you're like,
it was like,
what?
No.
She sets up just the killing of her husband, her son, her entire kingdom.
The only thing, though, is they do say, what are we supposed to do now? And she said, well, there's nothing to do now. Joshua was my whole life. Basically,
says something along the lines...
He was not supposed to be killed.
Something along the lines of, like, you've done enough. You already took my son from me.
Yeah.
And so again, you're a little confused because you're like, okay, she's clearly part of the plan. And that seemed like what their plan was trying to kill Joshua.
You kind of gathered that the plan was to capture Joshua and kill Elwyn and everybody else.
Yeah.
And she was going to go with the Imperials. It's kind of like what she says is what you'd gather.
And then so they're going through just killing any survivors. And they come across Clive, who has somehow managed to survive. He's kind of buried underneath some rubble. And then they're basically just about to kill him, and you're like, no,
she says,
no.
they're like, what to do with him? And she goes, kill him. And then she starts to walk away, and then turns around, and this is where it's like, okay, there must be some shred of motherly humanity in her.
Is that, yeah.
And she goes, actually, wait, his kind would be, he was a very good fighter, he'll be great in the Imperial Army.
Like, send him to the front lines.
Yeah, send him to the front lines of the army.
So now you're like, yeah, was that the little bit of mother?
Because that's the only thing I think of was like, why else would she not just kill him?
Or was she just like sadistic? Like, no, just don't just give him like an easy death. Like, he deserves to like treat something. Like a slave or something. Wish he was dead. I don't know. Just
so then he gets dragged away, and then
Final Fantasy 16 pops up.
And if you were back then playing the demo, it just ended.
The demo ended.
Everybody's reaction was, you've got to be kidding me. That's how it ends.
That's where you ended it. So now, the demo, we had to wait a week to find out what happens. And you were just left with...
Yeah. Okay,
so stunned.
It's like, all we know is like, okay, that's what happened in the past. Somehow now we go from that to 13 years later... Clive is now with a band of guys who are trying to kill the dominant of Shiva, and there's some other war going on 13 years later.
We come back.
Somehow Clive has survived this whole time.
Yep, we come back to that first little bit we were playing. Shiva and Titan were fighting each other.
Clive got knocked out, if you remember right, from that boulder. He dodged and hit his head and got knocked out. So he wakes back up. So that was kind of like him dreaming of his past from 13 years ago is what I took it. I was like,
absolutely
replaying it in his head is kind of...
So you kind of understand now that he got taken in, as like a soldier with the Imperial Army of Sanbreque. He's with these other guys.
Yeah.
And again...
He's in the Imperial Sanbreque Army.
Correct.
And they're there to kill the dominant of Shiva, which they said is recently...
Like
been captured by
call her like the new one.
Yeah, the new dominant Shiva of the Iron Blood. So
now you're coming. You're waking back up, and one guy like just died, and the other guy is kind of like, I told you, like, you can't die. Like you are important to this mission.
We have to go complete the mission. We have to go kill Shiva. The battle's been over. They basically said Shiva and Titan stop fighting. So. We know she's not at Shiva anymore. We have to go find who the dominant is.
Yep.
So you keep running. You go through a couple.
I think they kind of explain basically. Clive's kind of like, say, somebody just died, dude. Yeah. And he's like, well, if we return home without doing our mission, we get killed.
Yeah.
So it's either
get your ass up and go.
So it's either go home and get killed or die here.
Yeah.
So let's go.
Let's go.
And you're like, so you're kind of like, you're still trying to wrap your brain around what
just happened.
What just happened, and now it's like. Okay, we're like 13 years later, and
so it really is just like, okay, so we get a feel for like just who Clive is and where he's at now in a mental state. Probably, like, he's traumatized background, right? And also kind of understanding now why he probably goes as Wyvern.
Yeah.
If you kind of put that together, you go, okay, well, all the Rosfields were killed.
He
was presumed killed. So he's probably not going as
just
Clive anymore.
A grunt soldier in the army.
Just trying to
basically
hide
doesn't matter who he is anymore.
So there's not much of a scenes of walking. You just do a little bit of walking through places, nothing. And then all of a sudden you see a group of soldiers carrying some chick then...
Some lady in chains.
Beaten up looking, and she's in chains, handcuffed, and they're pulling her along. And then one of the other guys you're with, it goes...
Quickly realizes...
That's her. That's the dominant.
That's our target.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, finally, some good luck.
Yeah. And he basically says, though, how he knows is because he says the Ironblood hate the Dominants and treat them as, like, an abomination.
Yeah.
And so somebody being beat up like that and chained and being brought along in this area could only mean that that's the Dominant for those people. That's the only reason why they would have
So you kind of are wondering, you're like, that's weird, because as we've seen, Joshua is going to be the next king because he's the Dominant.
Yeah.
We saw Titan earlier, which seemed to be like the leaders. He's telling them to like sit down and shut the F up. But, you know, he's in charge.
That basically is saying that the Ironblood we learned are a religious group that do not like dominance but have resorted to using them in this war.
They basically are like...
What you can
I
gather
think they
from
say... You kind of learn it a little bit like later. Basically, they like don't like magic. And are trying to basically spread that message everywhere, and are going to use a dominant, which they don't agree with, basically.
You can kind of gather that from this point if you put 2 and 2 together and read some of the lore things, so otherwise you might just kind of blow. But yeah.
But anyway, so you find your target, little group of soldiers, and they just willingly jump right at them. They're like, we got them.
Jump down and we start fighting. And then they, though, uncuff her and say, make yourself useful.
Yep.
And fight her. So now we're fighting Shiva's dominant.
Or actually, what first happens, they're like turn into Shiva. And she kind of doesn't. Right. Then all of a sudden, they basically pull these other chains over, and there's like kids.
That's right.
And they put a sword to the kid's throat,
like bleeding,
and is like turn into Shiva.
Oh, also they speak a different language.
Yeah. So
a completely different language. So
a little cool. Just some more world building. You understand, like, oh, they're foreign. They're foreign. Yes. Yeah.
They're definitely not from here.
And then she doesn't transform, and they're basically like, well, all right, if you don't got enough in you to, if you can't transform, make yourself useful. Here's a sword, and then that's when you kind of come into like a boss. I think it's a mini boss fight. Did she have a health bar?
She does have a health bar.
Okay, yeah. So now you're kind of...
It's technically
your
a boss
first fight, really, as older Clive now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you have one new ability.
Is this where he gets it? Or does he get it after this?
I think he must have it now, because I don't know if that makes sense if he get it later.
I thought he got it... That's where I should have been. I thought he gets it when you...
Right
the
after.
Next place.
Maybe
Either way. It's not important to the story.
Right, yeah. Either way, so now you have another fight. I had, like, some trouble with this. She starts, like, flying around, doing a bunch of ice moves and blizzard, and I remember...
You're still not used to the battle system that much. We've only really done 3 real fights.
Like, one in, like, a half area.
Handful of little fights that...
So I also felt like the difficulty kind of jumped up a little bit, and, you had to use some items to heal.
Mm-hmm. Which are very limited by this point.
Yeah.
You've only been able to find a few in the area, so...
Yeah. There is an amount, and if you use
and that's the only way to heal at this point.
Correct,
You only have potions. And I think you have a couple high potions at this point.
Yeah.
I think you only have like 4 potions max and 2 high potions at this point.
Right.
That's all you can heal with.
Mm-hmm.
Then you should have at this point the stone skin tonic and the strength.
Yes.
Strength tonic.
Yep.
1 buffs defense by 30%, 1 does strength by 10% for like 30, 60.
So you have kind of a buff, yeah.
Yeah. But
so then,
anyways, very limited.
Now, after the fight, they they kind of knock her down.
And they kill off everybody else that she was with.
Yep.
At this point.
And
so it's just her. Clive goes to off her.
Yep. He kind of goes, they're like, is she dead? And he's like, not quite. And like, basically like, end it. Give the finishing, finishing blow.
Yeah.
And
I think it's as he walks closer, and now he's like real close.
Even closer to her.
Yeah. Face to face with her.
He realizes who it is.
Yeah.
And it turns out to be Jill, who we saw basically 13 years ago was like his little sister.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
praying with him at scene.
Yep.
And you see like little bits of flashbacks in his head, and he goes,
he's like, no,
no, it can't be.
So he's kind of hesitating.
Clearly hasn't seen her in 13 years.
Correct. Yep.
Since then, has not seen her.
And hesitates. The other guy or two he's with is like, all right, let me do it. And right as he's like about to, you just see an axe just hit him right in the face.
That's
no,
right.
I think it's like the shoulder of the body.
Yeah.
Either way, it gets flown back by like an axe.
Mm-hmm.
And then more bad guys, the Iron Blood, show up. And Clive basically just grabs Jill and just like starts walking away. And the other guy, who's kind of been like your leader, is like, what the hell are you doing, dude? Like, get back here and help me. Like, we're about to die. Then he kind of goes and sets Jill down and turns around to go help out. Another quick fight, kick those guys' butts.
So he says, no, I will not kill her, and I won't let you kill her. And then you fight Tiamat.
Yes, so you fight this guy that's kind of been like your ally in this first little like opening scene. The guy that you were with, and I think in the battle he kind of gives you a little bit of history. He kind of starts, he's like, is this how you repay like the guy who trained you basically?
Oh, that's right.
He's like, I was the one who took you from the front lines into like their group, and you kind of learn like they're like a hit group, they're a little assassin group, they're a little elite squad.
Yes.
So he's like, I took you from the front lines, like I trained you, I gave you a name. So you're like, that's where Wyvern came from.
Oh, I think I missed that one.
So if you go fast enough through the fight, you don't get the lines of dialogue.
Oh, that's in the fight?
That's in the fight.
Oh, that's
so
why
you're
I
fighting
why I went right over
that Tiamat guy, and he explains kind of like a little bit of history.
Okay.
So you kind of,
and I think I knew that, but I think it also then reiterates that later on in the lore. That
and he kind of has a line.
You would betray the Holy Empire? Betray? I don't recall ever pledging allegiance to your Emperor. My service may have been bought with this brand, but not my loyalty. I just fight to survive.
Tiamat guy is like, you'd betray the Emperor. Clive goes, I'm not loyal to the Emperor at all. It's like, I don't care about
shit.
you guys. I'm just fighting to stay alive, like to survive. So then they fight. You get a little bit of history, and then
you get surrounded by these guys.
More guys show up,
like
and
lots of them, totally surrounded.
Clive is basically just like, I'm screwed now.
Yeah.
I got no help.
Then all of a sudden,
so he goes to just Jill and is kind of just like, this is it. I can't do anything.
And then come and take out everybody with like purple lightning.
Yeah, very cool.
And you're like, huh? And in walks one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
If not favorite, absolutely love him. The famous Sid. Yeah, yes. Sid
Final
shows
Fantasy
up. Doesn't take long. Here we go.
Sid.
And he is great. He is definitely up there in top Sids of all Final Fantasies for me. I mean, it's really hard to beat 7 Sid. He's like the OG for me.
Yeah.
He's the OG awesome Sid. But man, he might be second. He's great.
Oh, for real. Yeah, he's gunning.
The voice acting he does is awesome. His whole
gunning for one. I think he shows up. Cool. He's just smoking like a stogie, like a little cigar kind of.
He's got 2 swords.
Yes.
He's got this big popped collar that's like kind of down, and like chest kind of hanging out. Like cool,
little swagger.
Yeah, a little bit older than Clive. He's not like old. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I
shows up. This lightning and it's just kind of like,
follow me. Yeah, basically, if you want to live, follow me. And then hops out a wolf.
Yep.
Dog wolf hops in at this point.
And you're like, wait a minute.
Huh? Then you hear, I think you also hear Goots.
Yeah, he's like, you hear like a voice. He's like, I need help. And he's like,
oh god, I hate his voice, but I understand it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Also like annoys me. But anyway, so
he's basically follow me if you want to live.
Yeah, Clive is very hesitant at first, but he's kind of like, what else are you gonna do? And there's more gonna show up after that lightning.
Great dialogue. Clive literally goes, fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck. I feel like that just sums it up. It just said everything. You're literally just like...
This is where I was like, oh wait, he's Geralt.
Yeah, and he turns into Geralt.
Oh wait, he's now Geralt.
He was Jon Snow, and then after 13 years of hell...
Yeah, he turns into Geralt.
to The Witcher. And he's literally just...
He says it all, the delivery of it.
The delivery of fuck. You don't know what to do, but he has to like follow this random guy for better for worse.
And you basically, just about killed Jill. She just went through a giant fight with Titan, and then you beat her up afterwards. So
yeah,
she's almost dead. You have to carry her. She's completely out. So yeah, then we follow Sid, who also then I think right away name drops him. And he goes, you might want to follow me.
Yeah.
I think it's like right away.
Yeah, he calls him up.
Clive Rosfield.
And he's like, what? And he goes, anyone would know that that's the power of the Phoenix.
Yeah. There. Calls it out.
And he's like, thought you were long dead, but here you are. Basically.
Heard
only
some
person
rumors,
who's able to use the power of the Phoenix there. So that's part of where I think he follows him. And he goes, like, I have a hide. And basically he's like, I have a hideaway. Nobody will be able to find us. Follow me. And so then you're walking.
Sid has just got the answers. He knows what's going on.
So you go into the middle of this place, which is just ravaged by. Now you get to see like the blight.
They call
what it does.
The Deadlands, right?
Yeah, the Deadlands. So it's basically just middle of the place, but the blight has taken over, and nothing seems to be able to grow there. Everything's dead. It's all gray everywhere.
Yes,
just
yeah.
Dead desert-ish.
I think Clive kind of grabs some soil,
like
and it's just like ash.
There's nothing that can grow on it. Terrible land.
So he's like, what the hell are we doing here?
What are we doing here? And Sid's like, well...
But it also means no neighbours.
The last place anyone would think to
look. Can live here. So we've set up shop in a place. So then you end up, and this is like your main base. You go back to this place all the time. It's
your
Sid's hideaway. That's what it's called. So now this is where...
home base.
There's a lot that happens here, but I don't think we really need to go through much of the kind of dialogue.
Correct.
This is where it starts to get to be like, oh, okay, this is not important. You get to develop. There's a bunch of different people here, and you get to develop relationships with them that stick around for a long time.
Yeah. So you get your kind of first village town that you can kind of go around, explore a little bit, and talk to people.
But instead of being like, oh, I go to a new town every time and there's a new weapon shop and stuff, you talk to your weapon shop here, you talk to your item shop lady here, and
it's your blacksmith.
Yeah, you go through. So basically, you got to go through a lot of things, and you have conversations with them. You learn who their names are and everything, but it's kind of important. We'll bring them up later on. At this point, I think it's just learn them all. You learn who Tarja is.
She's important. Yes.
She's basically the healer, the white mage of the town, the doctor.
Yeah.
So you take Jill to her. She puts her in the infirmary and says she needs rest. Leave her alone. Go figure out. You talk with Sid. Sid basically says the same thing. Why don't you go talk to everybody?
Yeah.
Clive is kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Kind of like,
yeah.
And he basically explains. I think this is wrong when he explains his only purpose in life is to kill his brother's murderer. It's to find him and kill him and avenge his brother.
So
who he believes is the other icon of fire.
Yes, he's like...
or dominant of fire.
Yes, Sid is kind of like, hey, join us here in this hideaway. Clive just is like, I can't. I have to avenge my brother. Mm-hmm. There was a second dominant of fire. And then they kind of still say which shouldn't exist. Mm-hmm. And killed my brother. And so he's like, I'm going to kill him. And he's like, everything else doesn't matter.
Yeah. And then Sid's like, well... I would normally not believe you. However, I have heard rumors, and so the rumors then must be true.
Yeah. Also, so I think you get a little kind of feel for what, I don't know if Sid has explained his hideaway and like everything, who he is kind of like joining him. You get the feel that everybody there is a bearer. So like everybody has the mark.
I don't know if he explains it here, but like
very shortly after.
In the you have a conversation with Sid, and then you go do a lot of the running around talking to other guys, and then you have another conversation with Sid, and so like in between one of these conversations, this is all.
You get the idea of Sid basically is helping the slaves, the bearers, the people that can use magic and are treated like slaves. He's basically having a safe place for them to just kind of be on their own terms. So he's asking Clive, who is a good soldier, hey, join this cause. You know, help out the slaves, help out the people, the bearers. And that's when he says no. He's like, I don't want to. You're kind of like, yeah, that's a good cause, right? Free the people. And he's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm out for me. And then Sid is like, right, like you said, kind of like, I would normally think that's BS, but we have, like, there's other rumors out there of
one of my guys
dominant of fire, and there shouldn't be one, because there should only be one dominant of fire, and he's dead.
Yeah, and he's saying, and then he says he's got a guy, his tracker or his scout has been tracking him.
Yeah,
actually. So it said he's been sighted in the Great Wood, I think is what he says.
So now you're kind of like...
So then Clive kind of perks up and is like, okay, maybe I'll help you. Then Sid is like... I think that's when Sid is like, first go around... This is where I wrote, fuck around the hideaway and meet everyone.
For a little bit, yep.
So you go do that, you meet your item shop person, which you're always going to go to. You can buy your potions from and some other materials things. We'll get into later, though. It's not really... relevant right now. You talk to the weapon shop guy.
You can maybe upgrade your weapon.
Yeah. Oh, actually,
get the next one.
It does explain this a little bit. It go back to the other one, and then go back to the item person, back to him. You know, typical running around MMO type shit.
Right. Yeah.
And basically, you learn though the weapons work where you can use materials to upgrade your weapon, and then you can upgrade it a second time for some of them.
Correct.
Then there's some rare weapons or rare armor that isn't able to be upgraded, but it also costs materials, which you've been slowly picking up. And it was kind of like, what are these things doing?
Yeah. Now you kind of point.
Kind of have an idea for what they're for.
You're kind of crafting materials.
Crafting those, so
we finally head out.
After all that, then we head out.
You're like
Sid to go to our second technical place, or first technical place.
I think we're kind of just saying you kind of have an overall story now. You have the backstory, Clive, and like the younger years setting up, and now you're like, okay, we are not with the like army anymore. You know, who like captured you. You're on a mission to get revenge, and who you want to get revenge on is seen somewhere. So you're like, oh, okay,
yeah,
that's what we're going now for.
And Sid's showing us this so that we'll help him in return later on.
And help, which we have seen the kind of slave master class and kind of fix that. So it's like, cool, I got an idea, I think I can know where the story's going. And so you head into first area with Sid.
Yeah.
The Great Wood.
Awesome.
And like a quick scene, you get to see their banter back and forth real quickly. They're like, oh, there's darn bugs or whatever, and he's like, yeah, nice shortcut kind of like type thing,
Oh,
he's
yeah,
like, yeah. He's like, of course. Or he says,
he's like, you're an outlaw now. We're both outlaws.
Can't take the main road.
So we got to take this
roundabout way. A little bit of like comedy. I get you a little bit of this banter between Sid and Clive.
Yeah.
You're just really quickly liking Sid.
Yeah. One thing I do want to bring up now, though, we've been talking about it and how party members have joined us.
Yeah.
At this point, you're like, okay, Sid, he's got to be a main party member, right? He's got to show up in the stats or something like that. Unfortunately, no. What we were both worried about a little bit of the only thing you know of person in your party They run around with you on the field, and then in the attributes part on the lower right, you see them as your party. You can scroll over it, and it shows you their name, and they do a little fist bump. That's it. It doesn't give you a stat screen. Doesn't give you like. I wish there was that I could even just scroll over just to see like a picture of them. Like I want to look closer and just be like study like a picture.
Like that would be
or
too hard to do.
And like, give me some stats or something. Show me like what his abilities are, what he's doing, and
we knew going into the game. They said you aren't going to be able to control your party members.
Yeah,
you're still holding on a little bit, but then you're like, okay, I get that. But then, like you're saying, you're still hoping that they would have stats. They would have equipment, some sort of customization, abilities. I was hoping for a little bit of Kingdom Hearts. You can tell them to do these moves more.
You
can tell
choose who's in it ever. No.
So,
but the one thing is they are strong though. They do feel like they do stuff.
They help.
There's moments where and it happens in this one where it's like you take the big guy, I'll take the.
They basically tell
extras.
you in the battle, like in the game, that's like you focus on like the mini boss. I got the other guys, and they do.
Yeah.
Before you take down the big boss, all the other guys are gone.
It's been sometimes, like you kind of you fight 4 or 5 guys, and you take a small group of them, and then all of a sudden, when you're done, you look back and you're like, oh, Sid's got like 1 hit left on these guys. So so he actually was doing stuff. Actually felt like he was useful. So that's the cool part.
If you kind of sit and watch, they have moves. He does like a dash, like kind of lightning strike, right?
And he can do one like an area like you saw in the scene. I think he can do one similar to that. So, but that part's cool. They do kind of feel like part of it, but it's like just the littlest bit. It's like you clearly have stats built in.
Yeah, because they're doing damage. They get hit.
Yeah,
they don't have health, but they get hit.
Yeah. It's like, why can't I just... even just to see it. Like, I understand not controlling them would be, like, a lot more, but...
I think we can both agree...
That's my biggest
complaint. The only reason we probably can't give it a 10 out of 10...
So far, I think...
Everything else has been
so far,
really
I'm loving
great.
everything. Battle system, pleasantly surprised with how much fun I'm having with it, and you get to customize it a lot more later.
Yeah.
To feel like...
And I know a worry of ours in our last video, we touched on it, is it going to feel like Final Fantasy? Is the battle style going to feel too action-oriented?
Yeah.
I was worried, the health bar feeling like a fighting game. Like, none of that. It feels...
It definitely has.
Thoroughly enjoyed the battle.
There's still so many other aspects of it, of Final Fantasy, story-wise, and, like, the world-wise, all the
crystals, chocobos, the summons...
It is at its core 100% of Final Fantasy.
Yeah, you aren't forgetting that you're playing a Final Fantasy.
Unlike 15, 15 I never felt like that other than like 1 chocobo in there. This definitely feels like it so far. So I have absolutely been loving it.
You have very quickly caught on that. Oh, this is a story-oriented game. You've already come across multiple long cutscenes.
Yeah,
awesome. Like stuff is happening in these scenes.
Oh,
compared to like 15,
there's already
where you're like
more
what?
In this point of the game. I feel like that's happened, and that's been more like emotionally draining than all of 15.
Basically, yes.
Because like you were saying, like we got to meet and play as Joshua. Had scenes with him, other than like in 15. Spoilers for 15.
Yeah,
but
sorry.
Like, you're like 20 hours in the game, and you're like, I've seen this chick in like 2 scenes, and then she's died, and you're like, I don't know who this is. I don't care.
Yeah,
like I had no attachment to it. I was like, I didn't feel
very early on. You lose Joshua, but it hurts because like you just played as him. You're like you're almost thinking like, oh, is this what's going to be?
Pretty much this whole beginning, and you're like the main character's brother, and the brother. It's like, oh gosh, so good. So, anyways, I just want to throw that out there.
Again, getting back to the good of it, you are now exploring a new area, new party member.
We also forgot to mention
one of the biggest parts.
How did we forget?
Oh my gosh, we're so sorry. One of the best parts of Final Fantasy 16.
The wolf that I mentioned.
Yes.
In there, we just glossed over that.
Oh,
I can't believe we glossed over that.
This just shows how much there is to talk about in Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah.
This is why we have to do multiple episodes. Yeah,
we're already over 2 hours in, and we're like nowhere in this.
Because without further ado, one of the most important characters.
Yes. Torgal.
Your
the
wolf
little baby
pup.
puppy somehow ends up at Sid's hideaway and had been at Sid's hideaway for who knows how long. It doesn't really explain that part.
Doesn't go into too much depth and detail, but it kind of says...
It kind of is weird how Clive is just like, oh, this is Torgal, and you're like...
You think that would be a bigger
It's been
deal.
13 years.
But at the same time, I think that's supposed to just go into like how emotionally damaged
There
he
was
is.
some like sense that he could tell that who he was like, once he got close. It was something similar with like Jill. Immediately... It was just like, oh, that's right. I know what this is. So, but... He becomes your like number one party member. He's the only one who does get like in your attributes. You can go over, and he gets a little bit of a stats. It's just like bars that go up and show like he's leveling throughout the story, progressing.
At first, I was more excited about it because I thought it would maybe be. So he has like 2 attacks, right? Mm-hmm. You can do Sick or Ravage. One is kind of just like an attack. One kind of hits him up in the air. I thought maybe they would level on which one you used. So I'd be like, hey, my Sick is level 2. And you'd be like, oh, my Ravage is actually level 2 because I used that one more because...
So far, the only time it seems like it's just based on story.
Yeah.
It's only seemed to level as it goes story. And those moves only have 3 levels, apparently. Mm-hmm. Looks like. He has like 10 levels or so. Yeah. I didn't count how many, but he's got like 10 seconds or something. At least, yeah. And it seems like it only levels as you go through the story, and it just gets stronger that way. But it's still cool. Like that's what I wanted with the other party members. Just something simple like that.
So now you have a whole new set of controls in battle. Mm-hmm. Your potion, your items. If you press left on the D-pad, you come to new controls, and now you get to tell Torgal what to do. Mm-hmm. You have those 2 attack moves I mentioned, and a heal.
Yeah.
And another thing that we didn't mention about the battle is your health. It depletes, it goes down, but you may have started to notice you have a gray in between like your health bar.
Yeah, it's almost like a translucent green though.
Yeah.
Like your green health bar, but then it almost becomes like sort of transparent portion of that
maybe
damage.
Have noticed that recovers during battle and then outside of battle. But like you may still have not your full health.
Yeah.
So Torgal,
they call it your regen bar. I think they don't really say it in game, but like in the tutorial.
So I think tutorial kind of doesn't really.
I think they call it regen bar.
His heal speeds up that recovery of like
that, which basically he casts regen.
Yeah. So it's not a whole lot, but a little bit over time. So you kind of.
So it's kind of like every so often you kind of paying attention and want to have him cast it.
Yeah.
And so you're just trying to have that like always on once you've been hit.
And sometimes I think he does it himself. I think he kind of attacks on his own sometimes.
He will attack. But you definitely want to throw your combos in there. Like he'll do, if you just hit it when you're not doing anything, he just does like 1 attack.
Yeah.
With Sick. But if you do your combo and you hit him up in the air and immediately press it, he'll do like a spinning attack and you hit him like 4 or 5 times as opposed to just once.
So a little just different gameplay.
It's just a way to add it in, and it's fun to weave him into your combos.
Yeah.
When you're doing your squares and then you kick him up with an ability.
Can't help but think though, like, why couldn't they at least have done that with like Sid then? Where I don't know, just like a command or 2, you tell him to do 1 thing or 2, like just a little bit of control.
Yeah, little, great.
Also, it kind of glosses over like Torgal's kind of like that story of how he got to be there. They kind of just mention, you just assume he survived that Phoenix Gate, and then they basically say he found Sid and has been with Sid. So
was he at Phoenix Gate though? I think he stayed back with Jill, didn't he?
No, because remember there's one scene. Torgal like runs up and he's like, oh, Jill's gonna be worried about you. Like, I thought you were a good dog.
Oh,
so he's at Phoenix Gate.
That's right. Does he go home then? Because I don't think you see him after that.
Correct.
So again, it's very unclear as to like how he. Don't really
I'm the type of person I like everything explained. So Torgal kind of just like.
I mean, we still haven't beaten the game, so. We're still
holding out for some things.
We're only 3/4 of the way, so there's still quite a lot that there might be.
He just apparently he survives, and I guess you kind of just assume he's maybe out in the wild, and then Sid is kind of doing his thing, helping people out. Mm-hmm. Comes across the wolf that needs help, and then then you kind of learn they've been together for a little while, but then runs into Clive. Now it's Clive and Torgal.
So, anyways, you go through the Great Wood, and it's got a few little spots here and there. Not too much to talk about because there's a lot we want to get to still, and we're pretty far into this one already. So, basically, you go through, and then all of a sudden you run into this boss, Fafnir, which is a giant, scaly lizard. And I know you had difficulty with him. His moves were awkward to evade.
He kicked my butt. This was definitely, like I was saying earlier, I felt like difficulty level jumped up a bit when you're playing as older Clive. This is only like this is probably like your real first boss as being kind of older Clive now. And I had to use every single potion. I couldn't dodge a single attack, and I couldn't hit him. I would try to do that uppercut, the rising thing, and he would like move away.
Yeah.
All of his moves were like
he's rolling around.
Yeah, they were like follow-ups, and tough. So just when you're thinking, I got the hang of this is easy, I can just press square. No, not quite the case again. So a very fun boss fight. And you know what I actually liked is right after. There's a typical scene like where you fight something and like your character is like winded.
Oh, come on. Stand back.
Clive's like winded, and like the boss gets back up. It's not dead yet, and I was like, "It kicked my butt." Actually, this is accurate.
Yeah.
And then we see, Sid basically power up.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And
it was like gold Super Saiyan.
It was like lightning around him and just destroys the thing.
We learn
like,
later.
Awesome.
You don't know what it's called, but we learn later it's called semi-prime. So basically, like you really learn like he's going like half into his icon.
Because we've seen we've seen icons before, how crazy powerful they are. We've seen Joshua kind of transform into one.
Yeah.
And he kind of saw it a little bit earlier where he was half.
Yeah.
So that was that kind of that power, half like icon, semi-priming.
Yeah.
Very cool, very awesome.
This is when, and then Clive is like, "Wait, you're a dominant?"
Yes.
And he's like, "Yeah, somehow Ramu chose this sack of bones or something weird like that."
Yeah.
But then...
So you continue on.
Yeah.
Do a little bit more of the area.
Well, actually here they have a little conversation, I think, more of that. And it's kind of like... And
I think Clive like kind of slowly asks some like questions, kind of like...
why are you doing this, though? And he says...
But my days as a firebrand are long behind me. No, I only wish to offer our kind of choice. A place where we can die on our own terms.
And he says... I had to put this line in there because he basically says, like, I wanted to create a place where we can die on our own terms.
Yes. The bearers, the people who can use magic,
were perceived
as slaves, to try to get those two. We should all be
equal, and we should all be able to die on our own terms.
Yeah.
And not be getting slaughtered and run it down. Thought that was cool.
Learn a little bit more about him.
Yeah, so anyways, then you continue on in this great wood place and go through a few things, and then you run into Benedicta.
Somebody you recognize. You've seen her. I think there's been like a little scene. She kind of has popped up.
This might be when her name pops up, though. I think this is when you see her, and Clive is like, "Who's that?"
Who is that?
And Sid goes, "Benedicta Harmon." And
you kind of learn.
Okay. She's the head of the army of the Walud.
Yeah, they kind of say like the intelligence officer.
Something.
I kind of like CIA. Kind of like you were with a group of assassins. That's basically what she is. Different country, whole new nation, and she's like in charge of some people.
And apparently she knows Sid as well.
Yeah.
She's kind of like, oh, him. Then she basically is like, okay, and she leaves.
Kind of walks off.
Yeah, tells her guys to take care of us. So then you get into another boss fight, and you fight Midnight Raven, he's called. And he was another trick. I think I had more trouble with him because he's another little guy, like rogue-looking dude, and he just hopping around all over the place, and he's hard to.
Oh yeah, I remember
at this point. He's got a lot of the like cinematic battles though in it. So.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they introduced the kind of clashing, so now you have to mash the square button. Yeah. Very cool scene, like the cinematic event in it. It's very, very cool.
Yeah. So then afterwards you beat him, yada yada, and then there's some more conversations with Sid, and this is where he gets brought up again more of the how there's another dominant of fire. This is where I think Sid mentions, he goes, yeah, it's confusing on it because there are 8 elements and there's only 1 icon per element. So how there's 2 fire icons doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Is basically what he says at this point. And you're like, oh, okay, so that is weird that Ifrit showed up.
Yes.
Then we get to, now this place is cool. You go through and now you get to Orabel Downs? Or Dawns. I can't tell.
Yeah, so
Down.
Go to like
Dawns,
another area here.
Now this though is where I call it like, this is the true world map, the overworld, if you will. Because this is where you can go back to these places.
Yes.
The other ones you can do in like an arcade mode, which you find out later. So, you can replay the worlds.
Yeah, they kind of call them stages, and a good way of knowing when you're like in a stage or on a stage, you don't have the mini map or a map.
That's right.
First off, there is no mini map. Sorry, there is no mini map just in general, but there is
no map.
Once you come to this place, has a map, and I think that's the first area.
Yeah,
a little bit more open.
Yeah, like definitely. Saying,
this is the overworld. This is the world.
Now it's a big area, big circle, and you can go run around anywhere. There's some guys you can fight here. There's items hidden every which way.
You can run.
You can take a lot of time exploring it, or you can go 2 seconds and right through it to the next town,
which is what you did on your most recent playthrough.
Yeah. There's not much to say, but this now becomes like, okay, we realize it's not just stage to stage to stage, stage
corridor,
to scene to stage
corridor,
to scene.
Yep.
It's not going to be like 13. It's not going to be like 10 where it's all straightforward.
Correct, yeah.
It is open.
Some open world exploring, yep.
Some exploration. So this part was like, wow, this is awesome that this is even here. Then we end up in the city, which we were a little village, whatever. Right. We go to Lost Wing, which is where we're supposed to meet up with Gav, the scout. Gav, who becomes very important, but you don't realize that here.
Quickly becomes another favorite character.
So there's some things here. You get here and there's like nobody, and it's kind of odd. And then you split up with Sid, and Sid says, "You go look for him. I'll go look for him." And Clive goes, "What am I supposed to do when I find him?" And he goes, "Just yell." And then as he walks away, he goes, "How am I supposed to find him? I don't even know what this guy looks like."
Right.
So he goes to trying to find him in the town, and then I forget where it ends up, but somehow that ends up, Sid found Gav and unlocks him from a jail. They were all put in jail. So it turns out that those Waloed soldiers were also looking for the Dominant. And
that's right. Oh my gosh, I kind of forgot.
They knew that the Dominant had come through that town, but he had left, and nobody knew who he was. He was very quiet, didn't really say anything. But they imprisoned all of the people in there until somebody would say something, and they were starting to kill people.
Yeah, all to try to get to this supposed second Dominant of fire.
The best part though is when Sid finds Gav in the jail, and he just goes, "Clive!" And then Clive shows up a few seconds later, and he's like, "I thought you were joking."
Yeah, I thought you were joking. You literally find him and yells, "Clive!" Yeah, it was great.
That's good. But anyway, so he lets him out, and then all of a sudden another soldier pops in and sees you and books it. And then Sid goes...
You chase him down, right?
Yeah, he goes, he's going to let others know, run after him. Chase him down. He leads you right back to Benedicta, who then, this part was where I started to really like Benedicta.
I think
she's... Dang. She
basically said...
And instead of killing them, you lead the rats straight to us.
Mercy.
So you meet up with her then, and she then just is like, you again, and I was like, I'm gonna get out of here. We have better things to do. And she like summons
this windstorm basically, and then all of a sudden a monster, if you will,
a harpy looking monster, what they call it, pops up out of it, which would be very familiar. Again, you've played 14.
14, yep.
I think in the battle, and her name is Shirada.
Have they explained at this part? Did Sid mention that she was a dominant?
I think
if
so.
not, they explain it right after here. You kind of figured out,
one
because
of those
obviously she's doing like this strong magic, so you figure out.
I think he does, because I think he says Benedict de Harmon, blah 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 blah, and he says the dominant of the icon Garuda. I think he does explain that. We find out that she's of Garuda.
So you kind of see her do a little bit of.
It's either here or right after.
See her do a little bit of her power.
Mm-hmm.
Summons this.
Yeah.
Other beast that, again, if you know 14, might recognize.
Well, actually, she doesn't run off quite yet, because then after we beat her, I have my note. Then she talks with Sid.
Oh, really?
And explains that Sid was the Lord Commander of the Waloed army and abandoned him and left. But also, she was with him at one point.
Because I think she does kind of say, "Come back to me."
Yeah.
Right.
Start to gather that she had some sort of relationship with Sid.
Okay. And then Sid was apparently.
Then she runs off. This is when she runs off, and then Gav gives Sid a little look. Sid gives him a little nod, and Gav runs off after her.
Right.
So, Gav, the scout, he goes to follow her again. Then you stay at the town, and Clive wants to follow, and Sid is like, "Why do you think I sent Gav? Like, He's gonna follow where she is. Why don't we take some time and rest at the town?"
Kind of.
So you
gather some more information, right?
So you do some fucking around in this town, whatever.
Again,
some typical talk to this person thing.
Kind of this next day, then.
Yeah, there's nothing really that important. You get some backstory to things, but I'd rather get to the other stuff. So,
Clive. Wake up. Gav's back.
Then the next day, it's, okay, Gav found her there, holed up in this place called Caer Norvant.
A military base, a fortress.
Yeah, some sort of
kind of
castle-like thing.
Yeah.
Clive wants to go right away, and Sid says, let's wait till nightfall. They're obviously going to see us during the day. And they just got there. They're not going anywhere. Yeah. They're looking for they're also looking for the Dom, they don't have them.
I think sends Gav out again to scout it and quickly catch on to his job.
Then it jumps and we see a scene that Benedicta has captured the person who looks exact as the hooded man that looks exactly like the one we saw 13 years ago.
This organization right 13, Kingdom Hearts looking.
Right before Ifrit
hood and cloak.
Up. And there's a girl with him, though. Who Benedicta's trying to get information out of. She doesn't say anything. She stabs her right in the shoulder.
She does, yeah.
And then is like, fine, whatever. And the girl says, Lord Margrace, don't do it.
Yep.
Don't say anything.
Yes, don't say anything.
Like, I'm okay. It doesn't matter, but don't tell her anything. That's pretty much all we get out of that.
So now you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
There is
that actually happened before, and then Gav says it, but... and this is where then we say we're going to go after, and Gav's like, I'm coming with, and he's like, no, you're not. I need you to scout. Yeah. I need that nose of yours or whatever.
You quickly learn Gav's role is to not come along, actually. It's to send him somewhere else.
I always laugh, because it's always the joke. It seems like from now on, Gav's just needed for his nose. He's just a scout.
Follow somebody else. So you do see this man in the hood. They have captured somebody that is supposedly that second dominant of fire. So Clive is trying to go there. Yeah, he doesn't know like they have him, but Clive is trying to go to the place. They're kind of like, let's wait a little bit right to nightfall. Comes nightfall, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so when they come up to Caer Norvant, and that's when they have the conversation, and they have more talks about what. Basically, Sid just reiterating what he wants. He wants everyone to be able to have freedom.
Sid, we both know why I'm here. But what is it that you want? Why would you risk your life for a handful of outcasts? If anyone ever learned what you've been doing with their property...
They'd have my head in a box. But this isn't just about dominance and bearers, it's about all of us. What I want is to build a place where it doesn't matter what you are, but who you are. But our world isn't ready for a place like that. So, until it is, I use the power I've been given to show people there is hope.
But then this is where he explains that she's the dominant of Garuda.
Oh, okay, that's...
So, like, I guess you wouldn't necessarily know, but you should kind of gather that she's probably, because she's using powers that you haven't seen anybody else
Correct,
use.
yeah.
Really, so that's where you gather it. And then we enter Caer Norvant. And if you played the demo, this place might look familiar. This is where the secondary part of the demo took place.
If you beat the demo, they treated you to a little bit more.
Yeah. However, in the demo, you have 3 icon abilities.
Yep.
Or 3 icon powers with 2 abilities each. Here, you only have Phoenix.
Right, yes.
So
it's a little bit
different.
different.
A lot harder.
It was a lot. Yeah, it actually is a lot harder. Yeah.
But so you wind through. It's just basically a castle, and you go through, and it's again we're more focused on the story, so we're not going to get into too much details.
As you go in, you see a scene, with like Benedicta. She's kind of like they're here, right?
Yes.
I mean, I think right before that,
and she tells her guy, and she says, "Bring him to the chapel. I'll meet him there."
Yeah. So you know it's a trap.
Yeah.
But I think right before this, because I remember this wasn't in the demo. You see that scene in the demo, but like right before it, she's kind of daydreaming and is having like remembering what happened, and it kind of shows you
that's right
a little bit ago, and it shows you the King of Waloed, who you saw in like one of the first scenes.
That's
if you remember in like the beginning, Titan's dominant, before he went into like to the fight, right? These guys are asking for help. This guy says no. So we see this guy
who is naked,
who is
in a bed, sitting on the edge of the bed,
and we see
clearly she's naked.
And you're kind of trying to peek around and see if you can't see anything.
They were doing a hippity dippity, weren't they?
It's very you
caught the tail end of that.
Very tasteful. Doesn't show anything really, but like they are naked.
It's clear. Yeah, it's clear. You can see like from the back, so you can see their back, and
but
maybe
so now
a little
we
butt
see
crack, but
them embracing. Obviously, they got done doing something.
So really confused. Who the hell is Benedicta with?
Now it's the
3 different people that she clearly has had some sort of relationship.
I'm not saying a whore, but
yeah,
she's
a whore.
Yeah, but she is. So then they have this dialogue, and basically you learn the King of Waloed's name is Barnabas, and he has a line of something along.
I unite the dominants, that we may bring an end to the strife, and found a new order to see us unto tomorrow.
I want to collect the dominants, the icons, to lead. Like I should be like basically like the leader.
And something about like bringing a new world or something.
Yes,
like that, by doing so.
So now
it almost seems like a throwaway one. Like he kind of just says it, and it's just like a. She's just kind of like a yeah, I'll follow you, whatever.
Yeah, she feels. It seems like she's kind of enamored with him, and he wants to create this new world and knows how to do it by getting the strongest.
It's really important, but then it just kind of like.
So you definitely start to be like, oh, okay, this is probably going to be the big villain. This guy's going to try to go collecting these icons and the summons and the dominants and okay.
He makes some sort of comment then about Sid in how when he first brought her that she was like embraced.
He's like you still Sid. Like Sid. He's like something right.
Kind of throwing that at her, and she's like, "No, the only one I follow is you. The only one I love is you."
Yeah, and he's like, all right, yeah.
Bullshit. That's not how you stand, but
yeah, he seems like he sees through it, but.
And she flashes,
So then it comes back. So now, again, you have this kind of idea. She's, they're with Waloed and they're trying to gather icons. Maybe that's why she's flirting with Titan, with Kupka.
I didn't even put that together, but yes.
Sid.
That makes a lot of sense.
Sid was with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was with Waloed. They are trying to find the second dominant to fire. So you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, they're
real quickly. They could have, if they all group together, they'd be the strongest by far. So now you kind of start to think, maybe you kind of see where the story is headed. Flash back to the present. That's kind of where she is like, senses you, right? She's like, oh, they're here. Set the trap for them. Get to play. Now you come back and get to control Clive. And you're with Sid. You're kind of exploring you kind of sneak in through like the sewers. The classic sneaking in way, right?
Yeah.
You're walking around. And you kind of quickly realize like nobody's here. You're kind of like, hey, like let's check with the dungeons, right? Like that's probably where they'd be. Like nobody's there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, nobody's in the dungeon. Find it.
It's like a little weird. Eventually, you come across some guys. You do some fights, and again,
there's a couple now. Now you get. I think this is where we get introduced though to the bigger enemies that aren't
correct.
They don't have a bar in the top right, but they have a stagger gauge.
Oh yeah, more of
those
this,
guys.
Yes, now you start to come across.
This is what I call the mini boss.
You literally just fought him as a boss, and he basically is the mini boss.
Yeah.
The guy you were saying you had trouble with.
I had trouble with him again.
Literally, basically, just becomes a
regular guy.
Not like a regular guy, but like not a boss.
it reminds me of in the old ones where you fight like Hilgigus. You're like,
exactly.
That guy was kind of tough. And then, like, the next place, you're like, now he's a regular guy. Like, I haven't even leveled much.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus.
See,
it kind of was like that. But
introduces a new thing or two. I feel like the enemy also, they can guard. So you have to break their guard.
Yeah, there's that, too.
These mini-bosses kind of
There's some more things that show up throughout this that they slowly introduce you into, which is pretty nice. I think this is also where they show guys that there's some mobs that have a healer in the background,
magic or something,
magic
right? Yep.
And they're like, take that guy out, or he will, which he will. Like, you can't fully combo those guys down until you take out the healer. He'll like fully heal. So there's fun things like that are in this that get introduced throughout. Nothing really though important story wise until you get to the chapel.
I think just at this point there's a comment of, wow, everybody's dead. And I think you kind of learn maybe through like the lore where you're at is a Sanbreque stronghold that now Benedicta and Waloed took over, killed everybody. So that's why everybody's dead.
I don't think I even gathered that.
Okay, yeah. So that was something.
I don't think I even put that much thought into it.
So,
sense.
You're not in Waloed, right? So it's like, what are they doing there? They basically took over a stronghold, killed everybody.
Yeah.
Finally make your way to the chapel, to the trap that you know is set. They know it's a trap. We know it's a trap.
Yeah.
Make your way into it and see a little bit of a scene with Benedict and Sid have some dialogue. You know, a little bit. You learn more of their history between those two.
Oh, good.
Oh, making me laugh now.
It's a serious moment, all right?
Yeah. Super serial. Get into the chapel, see Benedicta.
Yeah.
Her and Sid kind of exchange. He kind of feels like he's kind of trying to like give her one last chance to change her mind. Basically says, like, the king who you're working for, he's using you. Like, he's full of shit. And she's like, screw
this is
you.
part 2 where no, I did it. Where this is a part 2 where I forget how he says it, like using how does he say it? Basically, she says though, using my gifts to get ahead, and you say there's shame in that.
Yeah.
Basically calling her a whore.
He's
using you, and she's like, I'm using him. And he's like, nah, he's using you, and you're just sleeping around.
Yeah.
And she's like, you call that shame? Like, where's the shame in that? I'm good at that.
You know nothing of me, Sidolphus.
You're right. I don't know who you are anymore. Or what you want. I only know what you used to say. That you were tired of running. That you just wanted to be free. Free of it all. You weren't lying to me then, so what changed? What made you think you had to sacrifice who you were to get what you wanted?
Sacrifice. I use my talents to my advantage, and you would tell me there is shame in that?
If there's no shame, then why do you feel so sorry for yourself?
So I'm gonna use that.
Use what I what I can.
But it like pisses her off to a point then where she's like, all right, that's it. And she then goes and has wings.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, and is like glowing like greenish, and kind of like what we just saw Sid do against that other Fafnir.
So she's basically,
and then he
like,
goes, all right, this is on, and he does it again.
Powers
up, and we're like full on DBZ fight.
Yeah, this is
awesome.
Both
Just
is transformed into
boom,
Super
boom,
Saiyan.
Boom, going after it.
Fly each other, energy
but then
blasts.
she brings out her other harpies.
Yes.
Apparently she has 2 other harpies, and she goes flying past, and he goes,
and just wrecks him.
Yeah. Oh my god. He was fucking flying.
Even Clive was like, Sid!
Yeah. It's like, shit!
Yeah. He just yeeted.
Flying across into the statue. Not only that,
statue
hits the statue.
falls on him.
And you're like, oh my god.
Dead?
They just killed Kenny.
Yeah. I'm like, you bastards.
Killed Sid. So then she unleashes the 2, and she disappears and walks off, but then leaves the 2 harpies.
Yeah.
Here we go, boss battle.
Yeah.
And so now we fight the Chirata, which we fought earlier, a little bit ago.
New one.
And now a new one, Suparna? They never say the name, so
they don't. Yeah. Again, another. I feel like spike in difficulty.
Yeah. This is where
the real area of effects
come in and like dodge the areas. They'll show they'll do big streaked rows of area damage,
like what you would call in like MMO raid wide damage. I feel like where it's almost like unavoidable. Like it's a very big area. Like and you actually
starts to feel very much like a 14 boss.
Yeah, where it's like there's a part
solo.
There's a part where they're attacking and it's like you can't hit them. You just have to dodge, right? So it's like there's
you're
2 of
away,
them. There's a bunch of stuff going on.
This is where it starts to get a lot of fun. And
Very
by this
fun
point,
boss
too,
fight.
you've started to learn some more of those secondary abilities, or you could have... You have your 2 abilities.
Upgraded your 2 abilities.
Your uppercut, by this point, you for sure have your
AoE
one. And I think by this point, you could have learned your 3rd one. And you can switch over to... I remember this one, Heat Wave, because I used this for a long time.
I did. So you can kind of switch up how you play. You can try to play a little bit more defense, kind of counter, or you can just kind of upgrade your Phoenix abilities and just murder them.
You did that. I did I'm going to do Heat Wave, because these guys like to sit back and throw wind. So I got really good at doing that, and I love using it. I think I even went back to it because I love it.
So I haven't touched it
since
the demo.
Anyway, so after the fight,
you go check on Sid.
Turns out Sid's not dead. Awesome.
Barely.
But then Clive's like, "You all right?" And he's like, "What do you think?"
He's coughing up blood, and he's like, "Do I look good?"
He goes to get up and kind of slinches back, and is like, "No, you're gonna have to go after her yourself. I'll catch you up." So you run up these stairs, and
do a quick fight or 2, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit. It's run up this tower or circle of stairs, so not
going
much.
After Benedicta.
But then we get to the top, and we run into Benedicta again, and now we get to fight her one-on-one. And she comes in different parts. The first one is just her, without her powers or anything. Fight
Nothing
her for a while.
too difficult. You kind of kick her butt, and you're like, "Oh, is that it?"
Yeah.
You're like, "Oh, of course it wasn't it."
Yeah.
You pay for that.
Then she gets mad, powers up into her.
I think she proceeds to kick your ass then. Like she literally like has you like pinned down, right?
And in between, you're doing a lot of these or cinematic action
events.
Events.
Torgal comes and saves you, right?
And then Torgal comes out of nowhere and takes her and grabs her arm and like on her. And one of my favorite lines of this, she says, "Fucking dog!" And like throws him off, and then throws him against the building.
I think she like blasts him, right?
Yeah.
You're like, you think Torgal's dead now?
Yeah.
Like,
oh my god! And so then you lose Torgal for this portion of the battle.
Yep.
Which is tricky. This is very like she'll do like a flying around, and you can't target her, and you just gotta dodge and dodge and dodge and dodge.
Yeah, different of a fight. Yeah.
Yeah, totally different. So then,
like you eventually whittle her down. You do some cinematic, or there's another like cinematic timed kind of like event thing.
Yeah.
Torgal comes back and helps you again.
Although in this part, then she starts to do a move where she like grabs two giant chunks of the building, and like slams them at you.
Yeah, because there was one part too where she literally slams you against like the ground.
Yeah,
and I think that's when like Torgal.
Either
way, you're going back and forth.
Back,
you're fighting her. She does kind of like the little scenes in the middle of the fight and is like kicking your butt. Torgal saves your ass like twice.
So what's fun about these two is that you can never be overpowered to a point where you're just like, I'm just gonna one shot.
Yeah.
And then boss battles over because there's so many different parts to it, and like they only trigger at so much health. So like even if you somehow trained until you were a ridiculous level and could basically one shot, it would still be like 4, 5, 6 parts to this fight before she would actually be like completely dead. So
it's a lot of fun. It's very satisfying. It takes like a while, and you feel like you earned the win.
Yeah. So it feels very. Yeah, I like how the boss fights in this one.
Again,
they can be long and lengthy, but I like that. They're fun. Sometimes they're not difficult. I haven't got game over.
I was just going to say we've kind of talked about it's good difficulty, but like we haven't quite died to a boss yet. But at the same time, like
if I'm not paying attention, I've used almost all the bosses. I used all my potions. I was like 2 hits from like losing that. So
you gotta dodge
you
and like
really gotta pay attention to some of these fights. So, anyways, that's fun fight, and then afterwards,
you finally whittle her down. You beat her down.
You are but a branded. How? How did you do it? How did you even survive? How?
You've got to get on the ground.
The answer is simple, Benedicta.
Sid comes up.
He was fighting for something he
catches up with
believed
you,
in.
and then
shut up!
Is this where she's like,
"Why aren't you dead?"
Yeah.
This is the line where she's like, "Why aren't you dead?"
Is she saying that to Sid, or is she saying that to Clive?
She's saying it to Clive. I think she's like, "Why aren't you? How did you survive?" Like, anyways, like, so I think she knows Clive.
She's either. I feel like she's either saying like, "Why didn't you die?" to like the boss battle before, like the Sisters of Garuda. Or she's saying, like, how did you survive against me? I'm semi-primed. I have the power of an icon right now.
I think it's gathered all of this is like, you keep surviving. How are you still fighting? I've thrown everything at you. How are you still
fighting? Why aren't you dead? Yeah. Like the way, she kind of has like an accent. Yeah. So at first it was kind of like she talks funny. And then it was kind of like, oh, you kind of started to catch on that, like, each nation has like their own like accent basically.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you would call hers, but I actually really like the way they talk.
By this point I started to be like, I love her. I'm starting to love her as a character.
Right.
She's great. Like I was like, I hope she keeps fighting her.
Yeah.
And like she becomes the like Beatrix or something. You know, where you just keep fighting the Seymour. You just keep fighting her. I hope she becomes a rival. I'm starting to really like this character.
And then Clive is like, all right, I am done. Where is this dominant of fire? Where is this SOB? And goes to grab her, right?
Yeah. That's when he goes to grab her to like pull her. You won't tell her.
All of a sudden, you see this kind of ether, the magic, if you will,
greenish, like that she's been shooting at you. Powers
goes towards Clive. And again, you've seen this if you've played the demo. He all of a sudden just starts like in pain.
Oh yeah,
screaming in pain, falling on the ground.
And Sid's like, Clive, what?
And it kind of does like a slow-mo, like time like freezes for like a little bit. You're kind of like, what's going on?
Yeah, it does pause because then it like freezes and then shows everybody. go right on next.
Quickly comes out of that like frozen time, and Clive recovers quickly. He seems fine then.
Yeah.
Sid's like, "What the hell just happened?"
Yeah.
And then Benedicta's like, "All right, screw this." Like, gets up. She's like, "I'm done with you guys."
She does like a.
Enough of this. What?
She tries to power up.
I was like, "There's nothing." And then she's.
Tries
What
to,
did
like,
you do to me?
Yeah, starts just.
She's
gone.
She's gone. Garuda's gone.
Give her back.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it. Give her back. What did you do?
And I think it might show Clive has like in his palm, instead of the fire that we've seen, it's like the wind. Again, the magic she's been shooting at you, and he's like, "What the hell?" And that's when she's like, "You took it. You took her from me. Give her back." And then at this point,
then her other guy, I forget his name, but he shows up. Her right hand man.
Explosions just start going off, right? And you're like, "Whoa, what is happening?"
He comes in. He goes, "We got to get out of here." He escaped. He says I think he says the Dominant escaped.
Like, yeah.
He went nuts and he's killing him. We need to get out of here.
She's hysterical.
She's absolutely hysterical at this point. Like, not even like coherent to what's going on.
Yeah.
You know? Sid basically says we need to leave to.
Place is coming down.
Yeah.
The second Dominant fire is not here anymore. He escaped.
Yeah.
You kind of see that scene.
Clive tries to fight him on it, but Sid's like, "Let's just go.
Yeah.
We need to go. It's too late. He's gone." So then
going to a new area, and it's basically kind of just like get away from the burning building.
Yeah. Oh, but you were just saying too that there's a quick scene. You see the hooded guy with his other lady that was with
helper.
And they're walking through a hallway, and she goes, "I set off the distractions, like you said." And it's kind of like, I don't even think he says anything, right?
He there's actually one thing he kind of has like a weird like sense, and he's kind of like what was that?
What was that?
I created a diversion as commanded, Your Grace. The villagers escaped in the confusion. As should we.
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
And you kind of get the vibe that he sensed Clive or Benedicta, like the fighting or whatever. People are just like starting on fire around him too, as well. They're just like, so then you know they did escape. So, but Clive wants to stay and find them. End up, leaving. You get to a new area. You're basically just trying to get away, and you now have access to Garuda's abilities. Little bit different now. So now you don't just have Phoenix, you have Garuda's abilities. And if you want to go into those a little bit at all.
Yeah, let's go to kind of quickly though.
Yeah.
I guess maybe we don't have to go into details of them, but you get a whole new set of 3 abilities. You can equip 2 of the 3. And your circle ability changed. Now instead of dashing towards them, you can pull an enemy towards you. One key thing about that is if you have any of the enemies that have a stagger gauge, once they hit the halfway point, you can do circle, and it pulls them down to the ground and allows you to do bonus damage.
So basically, like, extends that little... Like, normally when you get them halfway, they kind of are stunned for a second, and you can maybe get one good hit in. This, you pull them down, and now they're stunned for a little bit.
Yeah.
And
it's really good.
Most of the time, you can basically just get that second half of stagger down.
Yeah, a lot of times. It's really good.
With using one of Garuda's other abilities, you have the gouge, which is starts off on the square button, and if you keep pressing it, you just keep attacking. These claws, talons, just ripping them apart.
Yeah. So then, her other one, Wicked Wheel, you do an area attack and you spin up in the air, and then you do damage. Then you can continue an air combo, so that one's really helpful to continue combos. It also does a lot of stagger. All of her abilities do a lot of stagger. Her third one is an interesting dodge. You dodge backwards and then jump forward for an attack. And it's very similar like Heat Wave. If you
dodge
counter. If you evade an attack with the timing of it, you do bonus damage. So that one's I used that one for a while, and then it got really difficult to time
the timing wise.
In like non-boss battles, it wasn't like worth it, so I just switched off.
Yeah,
but it's very fun and very useful in situations.
So now you're going through this new area, testing out your new Garuda moves, and you get to one spot. I think you meet up with Gav.
yourself killed.
It's not me who's been playing with fire. Don't do things by halves, do you?
Gav is like, whoa, you guys destroyed the place. And they're like, that wasn't us. And then we're like, hey, you guys, you got the people to safety? And he's like, that wasn't me.
Oh,
so you're kind of like, so you're both are like, you know, as the gamer, as the player, that was
but they're
the
both
second
like,
down at a fire. But
what's
then,
going on?
Yeah, they're both like, what? Weird. I think you... Clive's all like, he got away. Like, what the hell am I going to do now? This might have been my only chance. Gav is like, do you want me to track him? That's kind of what I do. And
yeah, that's right.
So Gav then becomes the man and tracks down.
That's right.
Goes to track down the second down at a fire.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're kind of just...
Yeah, but then it jumps.
I think you're kind
of... And it jumps to Benedicta.
That's right, yeah.
And she's stumbling off with the guy, and she's still just, like, hysterical. Like, I can't believe this happened. Like, let me go, whatever.
Like, she's like the king, like, he's gonna, like, leave me. Like, she's just like, I'm basically, like, I'm useless now. Like, what's gonna happen?
And all of a sudden... as her right-hand man is like, get a hold of yourself kind of thing, it's fine, we gotta get out of here. Boom! And nails him right in the head.
Right in the face, dude.
Right in the face.
Axe in the face.
Boom, he goes down. And then everybody else that was with her, boom, 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 same thing. Nailed and taken out. And she gets swarmed by these guys. And this gets, like, dark. Because they come in and they're like, oh, she's
rapey.
Gonna... Yeah.
What do we have here?
Fetch a good price, I reckon.
But we'd be doing the slavers a disservice if we didn't praise her work.
Like, she'll fetch a good price on the market. And but
we got to test them out first. Yeah, got to test out the goods first. And you're like, as they're reaching in,
yeah,
you're like,
she's on the ground and going, and you're like, whoa, this is messed up. What are we about to? This is messed up.
Oh God, I'm more
and then she goes completely berserk, and you see like a scene, it like zooms into her eyes and into her brain, and it shows like something like snapping.
It deserves to die. It all deserves to die. Die.
I think things like the first time it kind of shows, it almost looks like, you know, your nerves and, you know, you're going to your brain, kind of your synapses, and it's like going through. You kind of see the transformation.
Yeah.
And
then she boom, and she turns into a full-on icon Garuda.
Yeah.
And this huge tornado starts going through the whole place.
Yeah.
And she looks awesome. Giant, harpy looking.
Again, scary looking like Titan was, where it's just, you're like, oh, it's like demonic yellow eyes, giant.
It's so cool to have Garuda. Like, we haven't really had. Like, she was in 14, but
becoming
not like
bigger,
stable summon in like these.
Oh yeah, it's been a giant bird monster you fight.
You haven't had a very stable like wind element monster, and it's kind of one of those that's always different. And I kind of hope Garuda stays. Garuda's awesome.
It really fits. Really cool. It really fits.
So anyway, that's basically that scene, and then it jumps back to Sid and Clive, and they're like, "What the hell is that?"
You see the entire area is like covered in clouds. Like you can see the tornado from
tornado and hurricane like stuff going on.
Sid catches on real quick and is like, this is going to take out the entire area.
Yeah, and he doesn't want anything to do with it. But then Clive hears that voice again. And he goes, something's calling me, I have to go after her.
Mm-hmm.
And he sees, I think he sees the mask, or I want to say the mask man, the hooded guy, right? And he goes off towards where Garuda is.
So first, you're like, we're heading towards there, and then you get closer.
Yeah.
And you
see you open into a new area, and now there's a bunch of harpies.
Again, another basically boss you just fought. The last place you were in, a boss fight.
And now it's just the whole place is full of them. It's another one of those open world map type areas.
Another one you could just 1 minute go from A to B, or you could take that time and spend an hour trying to fight everybody.
Which wouldn't be a bad idea to get used to using Garuda for the first time playing it too. Getting used to switching between Phoenix and Garuda powers. Because you get both of them. You can have 2 of the 3 abilities on either of them. This is where like this part gets so good that we really want to get to this point.
So now you get to like that tornado, like where Garuda is, and you see the hooded man who was like just where you were at, who just escaped.
Oh yeah, and this is the first time Clive sees him.
Yeah.
So this is where Clive's like, that's who did it.
He sees him.
That's who killed Joshua.
Yeah, finally sees it.
I'm going after him.
And even Sid sees him. Sid is like, is that him? And he's like, I have seen him every day for 13 years. Like,
wait! Clive, was that
the Dominant? The man who killed my brother?
Are you absolutely certain?
I've seen him every night for the past 13 years. Watched as the flames of his icon took Joshua.
Now!
you know, just your thoughts, your dreams, like
exactly.
So like he just disappears. So you go chase after him, and you're kind of you get separated from Sid, and it's kind of like another scene. It reminded me of in the very beginning where Shiva and Titan are going at it in the background. You're walking along, and Garuda is just like flying around all over, knocking the path over. And
at one point, just jumps down in front of you and like just screeches and like
and you're like, oh,
she's
God.
Completely like berserk at this point.
And Clive, I think, has like one of my favorite lines probably still. He's just like I'm not here for you. Like get out of my way.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not here for you, Garuda.
I'm not here for you, Garuda. I'm here for the. So you're making your way. You find the hooded man again. And you try to get close to him, and it's a little interesting scene. Like Garuda then comes and almost like seems to like take him out, but like he's not. Like he kind of just like disappears again.
Yeah, and he's just like gone. But then right into a fighting Garuda.
Yes.
Full blown Garuda, and you're just
little tiny little Clive, dude, fighting this giant Garuda.
It's a crazy fight. Actually, because she's like all over the place. It's well typical, like she's a giant one, so she comes down, you have to hit her head, and then like she'll go like untargetable and doing moves, and,
right?
Kind of dodge. So,
slowly chipping away at it. Yeah.
This part isn't too crazy. This is kind of fun fight though, and then after you kind of take her down, and whittle her down.
It's cool, like seeing you're kind of like a cliff. She's kind of knocked away all like the earth around, and you kind of like cut her in the face, right? Like slash her in the face and like kick her off this cliff, and you're like, all right, I think I won.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden she just comes up and grabs you, right?
Yeah.
And then you see, and then you see her heal. Like she had like a cut on the face, and just heals right up. So you're like, oh my gosh, we haven't even hurt her.
Yeah.
And then it's proceeding to just squeeze the life out of you.
Arankar Hollow from Bleach.
Yeah.
This like instant regen. Like, Majin Buu, just like instant regen.
Can't.
Like, whoa,
what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
And then I know I literally just said it, but then actually probably one of my favorite lines. Clive just getting choked out, squeezed to death.
You're nothing but a monster. And I will not let you stand in my way!
And he's just like, you're just a monster, and I will not let you stand in my way. And just then all of a sudden, explosion of fire happens, right?
Awesome.
And you're just like, what is going on now?
Yeah, what just happened? And
what appears?
Ifrit's back.
Ifrit.
This is where clearly Clive turned into Ifrit.
Now you're like, what is going on? Why are we Ifrit?
Yeah, which is like we knew this originally that Clive was in control of Ifrit, but from what happened beginning of the game, in that scene, it was kind of like, wait, maybe it wasn't Clive? Maybe there's two Ifrits? Like, what is happening?
Definitely what I...
This has got really confusing.
Started thinking, like, oh, there's going to be a bad Ifrit. There's going to be a good Ifrit.
Yeah. There's got to be two, right? Like, maybe there's two Ifrits. This is really confusing. So...
Then you get to go
you don't even get time to think about it.
Correct.
Because immediately, second icon battle.
So, super awesome seeing him transforming into it. Oh, and then it's even cool because you get to see, like, Sid kind of, like, comes. You get to see, like, the scene Sid kind of comes and, like, watches
Sid
him, like...
Sid comes?
Sid comes.
he's just watching his face. Sid comes.
He, watches, then Clive just, like, turn into a Ifrit. Yeah. So you get to see, like, that kind of perspective, and it's just, like... enormous fire, you know?
This is where he's like, they're going to destroy everything, right?
Yeah. So...
Oh, wait, no, because he doesn't get involved yet.
Yeah. So
he lets you fight it out.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Yeah, he's kind of like just waits and watches. Yeah,
fight it out.
So then you get into your first,
real
kind of icon battle,
and man, these things are long fights.
Solid 10 minutes.
Awesome,
dude. Like,
awesome
epic
fights, but man, they are long, and you get to control Ifrit. It is so much fun though. So awesome. Cool. This one though, he's very like slow and clunky and does big attacks, but it's like not doing a lot to her. It's doing a ton of damage. Like if you look at it, like you'd probably do like a couple hundred with attacks at this point. He's doing like 900 into thousands, thousands, tens of thousands damage, sometimes with like super crits. So you're like just the massive numbers. It just seems crazy. It seems nuts. But yeah, so you go through and there's a lot of cinematic things as you're fighting.
Yeah, very just
There's
awesome.
Like multiple stages of it as it goes cinematically, and then it's just a DBZ battle too.
Yeah,
just straight up like energy blast back.
Yeah, they are, and then like they're like getting arms like cut off.
Yeah,
there's one
like,
point
she
healing it right back up.
Rips Ifrit's arm off, and he just regens it back as he's like blasts her with like a fire ball.
He does the classic like grab and just like you whip him like down to the ground and like just rips off like her leg.
Yeah, and then she regens it back
and like comes at him. Yeah, so you're just like, what? It really is almost more of like a scene than like a battle.
Yeah,
but it's like
it's a way to give you like a 15-minute battle scene. But instead of just watching it, it's like we're gonna let you interact with it a little bit. So it's like you get a long fight between these two.
Yeah,
just a back and forth slaughter.
And just when you're thinking you're Ifrit and you're like, oh, I'm kicking Garuda's butt, and then all of a sudden Garuda like rips your arm off, Ifrit's arm off, and you're like, who's gonna win this one?
Like by beating her. This is the end, right, where he like grabs her and you have to like press the square, and he's like
held on,
holds her and like setting her on fire.
Yeah.
Like inside out almost. Like
yeah,
burning. And then
he's going nuts.
I forget, is this where he does Hellfire?
I think that is the Hellfire. He literally holds on to her and just like explodes into Hellfire. He just sets off,
Yeah. And down
goes Garuda.
And Garuda's down. And then this is where Sid is watching, and he's like, oh my god, Clive is completely out of control. He can't control his icon.
Yeah, still going. Garuda's like gone, and he's still just like...
And he's going to destroy everything if I don't stop him. So...
Now we get to see...
And Sid just full on. He does the same kind of scene. Shows the like...
Yeah,
brain snap.
Nerves kind of.
Nerves.
See him power up. Oh.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
And just looks exactly like what you want. Just... Giant old wizard.
Gandalf looking dude, but he's huge in purple robes. Like, he is
epic,
bigger than Ifrit, and they're like size of skyscraper. They're massive. Yeah. And then all he does is just like typical Judgment Bolt.
Yeah.
But his bolt
throws some lightning, right?
Lightning, like from Final Fantasy VII when you summon him. And there's like the lightning, lightning blast.
Just wrecks Ifrit.
Yeah. Knocks him down, and then Ifrit, like, he turns back into Clive.
Mm-hmm.
Then he just kind of... It's kind of like DBZ when they turn into the monkey.
Yeah.
I forget
it was like
what they call that. It's exactly like that.
Your great ape form, the Zaru or whatever.
Yeah.
It's totally like that.
Just like that. And then, like, knocked him out, and then he just goes back into Clive form. And then Sid walks over and notices Benedicta.
Why Why did you have to listen to him? Benner. This can't be what you wanted, can it?
And she's just covered in blood.
Yeah,
Dead.
lifeless. Dead.
Lifeless, yeah.
Oh, God, that scene was... And like I said, I was just thinking, I was like, dude, she's so cool.
You just start liking her,
One of my favorite. And no, dead. She is, again, how many people have died in this episode? We should have had a counter. It's probably almost as many times as Krillin dies.
Yeah. We're getting up there, yeah.
God, it's just... Yeah,
and you know, she was ruthless, she was mean, she was killing her own people, but you're still getting choked up.
Yeah.
Sid talking about her dying.
Whether it was a romantic or if it was like a father-daughter type relationship, they had some sort of relationship, very strong bond at some point, and so it was like painful for Sid to see her like he's kind of like, why couldn't you just have walked away with me? Like, why couldn't you just come with me? You wouldn't be like this now.
And he eventually, walks away.
Yeah,
leaves
her there.
But again,
he leaves.
It's
now
hard.
This is
it's
key,
an emotional
though.
Scene.
This is something that we'll come back to.
Yeah,
he leaves a pin on her body and walks away. He leaves her body there.
Yeah,
which is important later.
Yep,
we'll get to that.
Yeah, remember, we'll explain why later. Maybe
he walks away and goes and gets Clive, but now we see Clive chained up, naked.
Yep, now they're
chained up, and we're presumably in a hideaway. And
he kind of wakes up. I think Clive wakes up, right? Yeah. And you're kind of like, what is going on? He's chained up, butt naked, and I think he kind of mutters to himself.
Of butt.
Yeah, I think he mutters to himself, right? He realizes he's like, remembering, I transformed into a freak.
I killed Joshua.
I was a freak that night.
Yeah.
I killed Joshua. And, like, he's saying it, the realization. You're realizing it, too. Like, no, you didn't do it, dude.
Yeah. Oh.
And Sid then comes in and is kind of like, oh, you're awake. And this just, like, heart-wrenching scene of Clive begging Sid to kill him.
It was me. I killed him. I killed Joshua! I killed them all! I'm a monster! And I deserve to die! So end it! End it now! Please! Please!
Because he's like, I did it.
Yeah.
I killed
just
all of those people. Just kill me. Oh. Yeah. Again, the voice acting is just so great. You literally are like, again, getting just choked up just listening to this, scene. Sid just socks someone and basically along the lines of just says, you're still breathing, so make yourself useful.
Yeah.
You're not dead yet, dude.
Yeah.
So you're
basically, yeah.
And then Clive is literally basically just sitting there like sobbing.
And then he unchains him.
Yeah.
So Clive falls face down to the ground.
And is just like sobbing, basically ready just to
get a nice butt shot here. And then
butt crack.
Yeah, he's just sobbing. And then Sid walks and is like, get dressed, and then just leaves. And then we hear some noises and Clive gets dressed and we're back in control of Clive and we're back at the hideout. So,
yeah.
And that's where I think we'll stop it because that was, that's a lot to unpack.
You've put it. It's a story dump. Like a lot just happened.
Yeah.
You barely could process one thing, and like 3 or 4 things happened.
Yeah.
Like Garuda.
So good.
Benedicta transforming into Garuda. She's gone now. Clive and the hooded man.
Yeah.
Transforming into a freak. The whole realization of what all that means.
Mm-hmm. So just getting to this point, when I got to this point the first time, was like, okay, this game can definitely break my top 5 favorite Final Fantasies.
This point, we're like,
I can see this. If this continues at this trajectory, this game, I'm loving it.
Yeah, like
already
I've enjoyed so much of it. We can
already
only say like
my last like 3 experiences with Final Fantasies and stuff. Like
minus like 7 remake.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, 7 remake.
But still, like just the raw like I feel like excitement. I think even tops. Playing 7 remake. Like
yeah, I was like I don't think I've been this excited and like happy playing one since 13.
Because you've been excited, like, oh, going to play 15 or 14,
15.
like, really excited.
And the thing that kept happening with 15, and I think we brought this up the last time, it was like, I was excited, and I was liking it as I was playing, but everybody kept asking, how is it? And I kept saying, good, but I'm waiting for the story to kick in. Yeah. Good, but I'm waiting for there to be really some sort of thing going on. And it just, like, never felt like there was one.
Kicked it into gear, yeah.
This one, I have not. Everyone's asking, and like, it's so good, and I'll talk for like 2 hours about it. Like, it's so good. I keep talking with the girls at work about it. I get like annoyed sometimes because I just go off for like an hour. I'm like, it's so good. It's so good. You won't believe what just happened last night. It's so good. So I've absolutely, and already at this point, and it just, spoiler, it just gets better. It just gets better and better.
Really. Big thing you can complain about it is the party members not controlling them.
That is my only like.
I'm sure you've said this before, and we're going to say it again. The good outweighs the bad. You can maybe get a little nitpicky with a couple other things. Like I was saying, you can't save on the world map, blah. Yeah. Minor things. Yeah. There could be more equipment customization, blah, blah. But as long as the story is there and the battle is there, like those little nitpicky things don't matter as much. And I've just, been so excited and so just like stunned by this game.
Yeah. So good.
Can't wait to keep playing it.
Clive
as a main character is
he might be top 3 for me.
I think so, man.
It's really hard, but like man, oh man, he is up there with. He's so cool. Clive is awesome.
Yeah.
I think we've said quite a lot.
Yeah,
about it.
I think we've covered a whole lot.
Yeah, to end this episode here. It's a real long one. I think we might be doing, though, I think a lot of them are going to be like this. If this gets too long, we might have to do them in smaller portions. But
this is why we decided to do multiple episodes of 16, because this is a small little chunk of the beginning of the game, and this is how much there is to talk about.
Yeah.
How much amazing stuff has already happened.
Originally, starting the podcast, weren't really planning on doing walkthroughs necessarily, but we did want to talk in depth of the games. But this one just was so much, and
there's just so much that we want to talk about. Yeah,
kept going. So this is the best way. So
hopefully you wanted to talk about it too, but there will be more episodes. To come.
Thanks for sticking around. This has been Super Frank, a Super Frank podcast, part 1 of Final Fantasy 16.
Series, we don't know how long, but
so I guess we should also say the next ones, my plan would be to go to each spoiler, but you get more icon abilities, pretty obvious. I think the plan would be to go, each part is each new icon ability that you because you kind of steadily get it throughout the game in decent portions.
So we kind of agree that's a good kind of
stepping stone in each one, and each one ends with
chapters, like if you will, right? They kind of feel like.
So I'm guessing it's going to be 7 or 8, maybe 9 parts if we do like a final one, depending on how the ending ends up being. I don't know, but
might be even more.
So, anyways, that's what you have to look forward to. Let us know if you've been playing it. Let us know what your thoughts are on it, how you felt about it, if you agree with us, disagree with us. We'd love to hear it in the comments, or send us an email at ASuperFrankPodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you guys. That's what we love to talk about Final Fantasy, so we'd love to talk about it with you guys.
So please just send in anything to do with Final Fantasy.
So
be sure to go check out our other episodes.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Check out other ones. Tell your friends.
Go buy 16 and play Final Fantasy 16.
If you have not. Find a PS5 somewhere so you can get 16. Play it. It's fantastic so far.
Our Super Frank take is go buy it. Must play.
Double thumbs up. Double thumbs up so far. Absolutely great. So far we're into it. Like we said, 9.9 out of 10.
At this point is
The only complaint is I can't tell the stats of my party members, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and it's just you can live with that. Yep.
But anyways, so we'll catch you next time. It's been a Super Frank podcast. Once again, I'm Super Sanctus.
Frankie here.
And thanks again, guys. Catch you next time.
Listen to my story.
It all begins here.
I know. This is a one-time gig.